Chapter 1023. Lin Mu Yu could not help but look at the old man in the distance. His brows were tightly knitted together. Who exactly was this old man? His cultivation level was not high, but his mastery of the mechanism technique was unparalleled. But before Lin Mu Yu had any time to think, the mechanical dragon swooped down and opened its mouth to spit out a ball of fire. Lin Mu Yu quickly opened his left palm and condensed the dragon blood battle shield in front of him. Boom! The flames swept across and burned Lin Mu Yu's arm. Damn, the flames spat out by the mechanical dragon were definitely not ordinary flames. They were comparable to Tang Xiaoxi's flame of the Master God. Her battle boots stepped on the air, creating two beautiful blue ripples. Lin Mu Yu had already used the momentum to teleport away from her original position. It was the same for this huge mechanical dragon. The Xianyuan sword shone brightly, and with the profound energy of the chaos of the lives, it struck directly at the mechanical dragon's weak spot. But before the sword landed, invisible blades suddenly appeared in the air and pounced at Lin Mu Yu. It was the wind saw. Lin Mu Yu turned pale with fright and quickly flipped his body in the air. At the same time, he saw that the scales at the mechanical dragon's weak spot were flipped up, and there were holes underneath. The wind saw's energy shot out from these holes. The wind saw was very sharp, and Lin Mu Yu was not willing to use the divine wall to challenge it. Behind him, the flying fish of the divine ghost and spirit squeaked. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Shi Yan, and Fu Zhu were fighting the flying fish of the divine ghost and spirit again. But it couldn't last long, and they had to get rid of this mechanical dragon as soon as possible. Lin Mu Yu leaped up and slashed down dozens of sword chi in the air. Since he couldn't fight in close combat, he could only attack from afar. What he did not expect was for the mechanical dragon to roar and wave its claws, condensing a layer of flame chi around its body, blocking Lin Mu Yu's sword aura with a ping 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 sound. So powerful? Lin Mu Yu was shocked again, but she didn't say anything. She raised her left arm, and a blazing purple sun suddenly condensed. She used the Star Scripture's Howren strike and shouted, "Destroy!" The mechanical dragon brandished its sharp claws and pounced over, instantly colliding with the purple sun. Boom! The night was as bright as day. The flames around the mechanical dragon's body were all destroyed by the purple sun. However, the temperature of the purple sun seemed to be slightly lower. It was actually unable to melt the dragon's head. It only burned the dragon into a fiery red color, as if it was a ferocious fire dragon. Good heavens, the metal used to create the mechanical dragon was definitely not ordinary metal. It could withstand extremely high temperatures. Inside the cave, the old man watched the battle, but his face was getting uglier and uglier. He had underestimated Lin Mu Yu and the others' strength. He did not expect them to be able to fight the mechanical dragon, and their speed was even fast enough to dodge the wind saw's multiple attacks. However, Lin Mu Yu couldn't say it. He didn't even dare to stay in the same position for more than a second. There were dozens of wind saws chasing after him. The mechanical dragon's attack was silent. Wind saws could fly out from every part of its body at any time to kill the opponent. This mechanical dragon was simply a killing machine, unlike ordinary mechanical beasts. Swoosh! Once again approaching the body of the mechanical dragon, the Xianyuan sword's light suddenly rose. Three glorious misfortune of all beings. With a loud bang, a dragon claw was forcefully chopped off by Lin Mu Yu. The price was that more than a dozen wind saws struck Lin Mu Yu's body at the same time. Immediately, the divine wall shone brightly and faintly showed signs of cracking. Lin Mu Yu couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He hurriedly dodged. The wind saws were chasing after him as if he was locked on by a missile. An expert in the Arch realm couldn't even withstand a single blow from the mechanical dragon. No wonder no one dared to enter the forbidden area of Starry Spirit Valley for so many years. As Lin Mu Yu dodged, he raised his left hand and chanted, "All things in the world, listen to my command." Buzz! The mountain range in the distance suddenly trembled. In the next moment, the force of 1,000 caddies fell from the sky on the body of the mechanical dragon. Boom! The huge body of the mechanical dragon trembled. At the same time, the wind saws chasing behind Lin Mu Yu decreased a lot. He immediately drew an arc in the sky and pounced again with his sword raised high. Facing this mechanical dragon, even Lin Muyu had to go all out. The stars in the sky fell one after another. He instantly launched a fierce attack of the 7 glorious stars transformation. Roar! The mechanical dragon seemed to have sensed a fatal threat. He raised his head and looked at the millions of stars in the sky. Stop! The old man in the stone wall suddenly roared and said, Enough, young hero, you have won. Flying fishes, ghostly deity, all of you stop fighting. We have lost. The old man really didn't want the mechanical dragon that he had painstakingly created to be destroyed. He could feel the destructive power contained in Lin Muyu's attack. Is that so? Lin Muyu suddenly shook his arm. Instantly, the millions of stars returned to heaven and earth like fireflies scattered on the ground. He looked straight at the old man and said, Can you tell us the truth now? The old man trembled and said, Before I tell you the truth, you must first answer a question of mine. Behind Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Xian also stopped fighting. They were all exhausted. The ghostly deity, flying fishes, and Ghost Hong were too difficult to deal with. The old man's murky eyes looked at Lin Muyu and said, Who taught you the domain-type mental cultivation method? Domain-type mental cultivation method? Yes, all things in heaven and earth listen to my command. That's the art of formless elephant. Lin Muyu said in surprise, How did you know about it? Art of formless elephant, the old man shuddered. That's the secret art of great Emperor Fuxi. How did you learn it? Lin Muyu smiled brightly and rested the Xian Yuan sword on his shoulder, because I'm Fuxi's only disciple. The art of formless elephant was directly taught to me by him from the sky beyond heaven. Fuxi's disciple? The old man was shocked. You're Fuxi's disciple? How could this be fake? Lin Muyu opened his palm and with a low roar, strands of divine power appeared and turned into layers of golden vines. They were filled with vitality. This was a strand of power that originated from Fuxi's divine power and had never been shown to others. The old man really believed it this time. He murmured, It's really the divine power of great Emperor Fuxi? You're really Fuxi's disciple. As he said this, he stumbled and fell from the chair and said, The great Emperor's servant, Mo Clan's Luo Tianji greets you, Immortal. I've waited a long time for Immortal and the god's heavenly decree for many years. Lin Muyu floated down and said, You're really from the Mo clan. No wonder you have such remarkable power. Elder, please don't kneel first. It's too much for me. Put away your remarkable power first. It's already a mess here. Yes, Luo Tianji quickly twisted the handle of the chair. Immediately, the mechanical dragon swayed and sank into the ground. Then, a rumbling sound came from underground. Pieces of intact rocks protruded out, and the ground returned to its original state. It was simply a wonderful work of art. Qin Yin and Xian looked at each other and smiled. Lin Muyu's identity as Fuxi's successor was quite useful. Luo Tianji then invited everyone into the sacred relic. The lamps in the secret chamber lit up one after another, making it as bright as day. At the same time, everyone saw the treasures in the sacred relic, as well as the multiple protective mechanisms around each treasure. Although Luo Tianji's cultivation level was not high, he was well versed in the power of the laws of heaven and earth. The mechanisms he designed were enough to kill a god-emperor expert. Senior, what's going on with that mechanical dragon? Why is it able to attack with the wind saw? Lin Muyu could not help but ask. Luo Tianji smiled faintly and said, It's because of the wind element raw stone. This dragon is called the Blame Dragon. I installed a wind element raw stone and a fire element raw stone in its body. Therefore, it can breathe fire and gather wind on its own. It's omnipotent. For thousands of years, countless God-state experts have died under the claws of the Blame Dragon. However, there has never been a powerful expert like the exalted Immortal who could threaten the life of the Blame Dragon. Don't call me exalted Immortal. My name is Lin Muyu. Moreover, I'm just a junior. No, seniority cannot be confused. Luo Tianji cupped his fists and said, I once studied under exalted Immortal Ji Jing. Exalted Immortal Jijing also learned the art of life and death from Emperor Fuxi. Therefore, according to seniority, I have to call you martial uncle, but senior? Lin Muyu was really not used to it. Qin Yin giggled and said, "Brother Yu, don't make things difficult for him. Just call me martial uncle. It's just a title." This. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, "All right then. Senior, you can call me whatever you want. Quick, tell me what's going on with this Star Spirit Valley." Luo Tianji nodded and said, "Martial uncle, you might not know this, but the ancient mystery land is not a plane that originally existed. It's just a crack in the sky that was torn open during the Battle of the Gods. However, countless ancient gods have fallen in the ancient mystery land. Most of their belongings have been lost. Some of them have been preserved and sealed here. That's why it's called the Sacred Relic. Before Immortal Nuwa and Emperor Fuxi left, they set up the Sacred Relic and gave me eternal life. They ordered me to guard this place forever and wait for the Fated One. It seems like Martial Uncle is the Fated One. But Senior, you still haven't told me what's going on with the Sacred Relic? Don't get too excited." Luo Tianji couldn't help but laugh and said, "There are 12 giant wind origin stones buried in the Sacred Relic. That's why they formed the wind saw in the ancient mystery land. It's used to restrict the lost gods and serve as a warning. Other than these 12 giant wind origin stones, there are also 24 medium-sized wind origin stones. The one inside the bewitching dragon is one of them. As for Gui Hong and the flying fishes, I met them by chance. That's why I nurtured them with the essence of heaven and earth to protect the Sacred Relic. It's indeed very effective. Even we almost died under the sharp teeth of these flying fishes," Shi Yan said. Luo Tianji couldn't help but laugh awkwardly and said, "Please don't blame me, Immortal Shi Yan." Chapter 1024. Then, did Nuwa and Fuxi leave behind a message? If the fated person comes, where should this sacred relic go? Lin Muyu asked a question that she was very concerned about. This, Luo Tianji pondered for a moment and said, "I don't know either, but there are many rare treasures in this sacred relic. However, they are often coveted by people, and there were even a few times when they were almost stolen. Martial Uncle, the Shenyuan sword in your hand was stolen from the sacred relic more than 1,000 years ago. Over the years, the dragon has chased away countless people who coveted it, but there are still some people with extraordinary cultivation who left this place alive. So, if Martial Uncle permits, please take the treasures in the sacred relic and my mission will be considered completed." "Let me see the treasures first, how about it?" Shi Yan said with a smile. Yes, Luo Tianji nodded respectfully. He shook the handle of the wheelchair in his hand, and the wheelchair immediately flew into the air. Luo Tianji held a strange compass in his hand and turned it towards the stone wall in front of him. Immediately, starlight fell on the stone wall, and as if something strange was summoned, the stone wall slowly trembled. The next moment, a pair of giant arms separated from the stone wall and stretched out, and on the arms was a dazzling jade zither. Wow! Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were instantly stunned. This jade zither was very exquisite and dazzling. They had never seen such an extraordinary 7-stringed zither in their lives. Moreover, it looked very antique and was obviously quite old. What is this?" Lin Muyu asked. Luo Tianji said with a smile, "This zither is called the Nuwa zither. It was made by goddess Nuwa using the trunk of a divine tree that was hundreds of millions of years old, and the strings were made from the whiskers of the deep-sea saint dragon. The Nuwa zither is indestructible, and when it is played, the sound it makes can be used to deliver all living beings from suffering, or it can be used to confuse people's minds, or it can be used to kill people invisibly. It all depends on the state of mind of the player." An item left behind by the exalted deity Nuwa. Lin Muyu frowned. "I only remember that the treasure left behind by the exalted deity Nuwa is called the Nuwa stone. It was passed down when she mended the heavens." Luo Tianji couldn't help but laugh. "Those are just legends, passed down from generation to generation. Although there is such a thing as the Nuwa stone, there is no such magical power. In comparison, the Nuwa zither is the real holy object. It is comparable to the magical power of the Shenyuan sword. It is also one of the most precious treasures in the Star Spirit Valley. Lin Muyu smiled happily and rose into the air. She opened her hand and sucked the Nuwa zither over. When the zither landed in her hand, she could feel an honest and sincere aura. It was indeed a good treasure. Beside her, Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were already blurred. She had been proficient in zither and chess since she was young. Ever since the 7-stringed zither left behind by her mother, Su Yun, she had never played it again. But now that she saw the Nuwa zither, her heart was instantly stirred. When Lin Muyu saw this, she smiled and said, "Senior Luo Tianji, can I give this Nuwa zither to someone else?" "Of course you can. All the treasures in the divine remains are for you, martial uncle. You have the right to do whatever you want with them." "Very well." Lin Muyu turned and handed the Nuwa zither to her. She smiled and said, "Xiao Yin, it belongs to you from now on." Qin Yin's heart was beating fast. She murmured, "But brother Yu, this is a holy object of the divine remains. How can it be given away so casually?" "It can't be given away casually. But it is not given to you casually. It is given after careful consideration." Lin Muyu's words were appropriate. She knew how to conduct herself. Qin Yin smiled and picked up the Nuwa zither. Suddenly, there seemed to be a spiritual fluctuation between her and the Nuwa zither. She could not help but hang in the air in shock. The Nuwa zither shone brightly. Streaks of starlight flowed on the zither. It was as if it had finally found its true master after waiting for thousands of years. Shi Yan smiled and said, "Xingt, congratulations. You have grasped another treasure." "Sister Haiyan, what do you mean?" "Little fool, the Nuwa zither is a treasure. Have you forgotten your special ability? The eyes of blazing light, the aura field, and the great silent sound. Using the Nuwa zither and the eyes of blazing light, you can launch the most powerful spatial vibration attack in the world. This is the legendary great silent sound technique. I don't need to teach you this. You can master it." Qin Yin was stunned. She nodded and said, "Yes." Lin Muyu suddenly thought of the demon Emperor Nushi in the Forest of No Return. Her weapon was also a zither. When she launched the sound attack, it was fatal. However, her aptitude was limited. Her godhood could not be compared to Qin Yin. Moreover, Qin Yin had the eyes of blazing light. She was a natural controller of the realm. Then, when she launched the sound attack, it would become the most powerful spatial law attack in the world, just like Shi Yan said. Seeing that Qin Yin loved the Nuwa zither so much, Lin Muyu smiled and asked, "Senior, do you have any other treasures? Time is of the essence. We cannot stay here for too long." "Yes." Luo Tianji then spun the compass again. Suddenly, another huge arm extended from the rock wall. On it was an extremely dignified and exquisite armor. It was a deep red color and suffused with a faint blood-red glow. It was dignified and filled with a murderous aura. "What is this?" Lin Muyu liked it from the bottom of her heart. "This is the Qiyu armor." Luo Tianji thought for a while and said, "Legend has it that during the battle between the gods and demons, the Xianyuan sword could not cut through this Qiyu armor even after hundreds of slashes. It only left a few marks on it. The material of the Qiyu armor is still a mystery. It is said that it is a strange iron that grew from the bones of the demon god Qiyu. Then, it was formed into this indestructible armor. I saw the scene when you fought with the Qiyu armor. If you wear the Qiyu armor, you will not be afraid of the Qiyu dragon's windsaw." Lin Muyu glanced at it. The Qiyu armor was divided into upper body armor, leg guards, knee guards, wrist guards, and so on. It was indeed a precious treasure, especially since she had just gained a foothold in the 64 domains and was bound to experience many battles between the gods in the future. One Qiyu armor was enough to give her an absolute advantage. Moreover, the design of this armor was for men, so it was not suitable for women like Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Hence, she was the most suitable one. Hence, she asked without hesitation, "Can I have it?" "Of course." Luo Tianji couldn't help but smile. "You are joking, martial uncle. This treasure was originally prepared for you." "Good." Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Her weapon was the Xianyuan sword. As for armor, Only the Qiyu armor could match the Xianyuan sword. He was just right. There had never been an armor that was truly to her liking. She took off the Qiyu armor and held it in her hands. It was not as heavy as she had imagined. It was indeed a treasure. After taking off the cloak and putting on the Qiyu armor, she put on the dark green cloak again. Suddenly, her entire temperament changed. In addition to Lin Muyu's originally handsome and elegant appearance, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and even Shi Yan were stunned. Just as Luo Tianji said, this Qiyu armor was simply tailor-made for Lin Muyu. "What do you think, martial uncle?" Luo Tianji asked. "It fits me perfectly." Lin Muyu waved her arms in delight. She realized that the armor did not affect her movements at all. It was indeed a good treasure. It must be the existence of the Qiyu armor that allowed Qiyu to fight 10,000 rounds with the Yellow Emperor. After tying up the cloak, Lin Muyu asked, "Then, what other treasures are there in the divine remains?" Luo Tianji said, "There are a total of 4 extremely rare treasures in the sacred remains: the Xianyuan sword, the Niwa zither, and the Qiyu armor. The last one is a divine weapon known as the Hoi Bao, but this Hoi Bao was stolen from the sacred remains more than 7,000 years ago. After asking around for a long time, I finally found out that this Hoi Bao was hidden in the headquarters of the heaven-devouring realm." "The heaven-swallowing domain?" Lin Muyu frowned. Luo Tianji's face showed a trace of hatred. "Back then, the people of the heaven-swallowing domain broke into the Star Spirit Valley and destroyed the other 2 mechanical beasts I painstakingly made. They severely injured the Zai Dragon, smashed the right hull of the divine remains, and stole the Hoi Bao. Until now, I have not been able to get it back. Martial uncle, it's all my fault for not guarding the sacred treasure left by the exalted immortals." "No, it's not your fault." Lin Muyu waved her hand, a faint coldness in her eyes. "You've tried your best. It's the people of the heaven-swallowing domain who are too strong. If it were someone else, the heaven-swallowing domain would have already destroyed the Star Spirit Valley." Luo Tianji took a deep breath and said, "My greatest wish in this life is to take back the Xianyuan sword and the Hoi Bao. Now that the Xianyuan sword is in your hands, only the Hoi Bao is left. If I cannot take back the Hoi Bao, I, Luo Tianji, will carry the guilt of facing the exalted immortals for the rest of my life." "Don't worry." Lin Muyu patted Luo Tianji's shoulder lightly and said, "Senior Luo, I will naturally take back the Hoi Bao from the heaven-swallowing domain. It may take some time, but I will definitely get it back." "Yes, thank you, Uncle Master." Luo Tianji took another deep look at the great hall of the divine relic. There were still many treasures laid out inside. He said, "Uncle Master, apart from the 4 great treasures, there are still many treasures in the divine relic. Although they are not as precious as the Xianyuan sword and the Niwa zither, they are still treasures that can guard a region in the mortal world. Why don't Uncle Master take them all away?" Lin Muyu was slightly taken aback. She said, "Uncle Master and Jilung have guarded the divine relic for so many years. How can I bear to take them all away in one night? In my opinion, since the divine relic is a relic left behind by the exalted immortals, let it exist forever. I can't be greedy and take everything away. How about this? The Star Spirit Valley is a territory of Dragon City. I will send people to guard the periphery of the Star Spirit Valley and re-establish it as a forbidden area. With the strength of the entire Dragon City, we will guard the divine relic together with you. What do you think, Senior?" "Thank you, Uncle Master." Luo Tianji nodded and said, "Then I have nothing to worry about. I can forge a second Jilung." Right. Lin Muyu's heart moved. "Senior Luo, do you have any extra wind origin stones? Can you give me some and teach me how to use them?" Luo Tianji could not help but smile. "Since Uncle Master has asked, it is a small matter. I will naturally obey." Chapter 1025. The war was over and Star Spirit Valley was restored to its former tranquility and peace. A bonfire rose outside. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi set up a pot and started cooking fish soup. As for the fish, it was not the flying divine fish. Qin Yin caught it from the river not far away. The two beautiful girls stirred the firewood and were responsible for this not too sumptuous dinner. On the side, Lin Muyu and Luo Tianji sat on the ground and respectfully asked Luo Tianji about the principles of the wind stone. Luo Tianji held a medium-sized wind stone about the size of a person's arm and placed it on the ground. He said, "Uncle, this is an ordinary stone that has not activated the power of the wind stone. It can be touched by human hands and there is no need to worry about being strangled by the wind blades." But if this is also the case, he suddenly opened his palm and a stream of vital energy seeped into the stone and quickly triggered the core of the stone. Suddenly, small wind blades floated around the stone. Swoosh! A leaf instantly turned into powder the moment it fell on the stone. It was clear how extraordinary the power of the wind stone was. Luo Tianji smiled and said, "Every piece of raw stone has a core. You can activate and deactivate this core through external forces. As long as you have a little bit of power, you can understand it. Martial uncle, you can try to deactivate the core of this raw stone." "Oh," Lin Muyu nodded her head and opened her palm. Instantly, her supreme god force turned into rays of light that seeped into the stone, dissecting the veins and composition of the stone. When Lin Muyu's power entered the core, she instantly felt a tyrannical and violent energy field. That's right, this was the core of the wind origin stone, and the method to close it was very simple. She just had to cut off the energy field from the outside world. Lin Muyu left behind a stream of divine power to seal the energy field. Instantly, the raw stone became harmless to humans and animals. "It is indeed simple." "Ha, uncle, you are smart." Luo Tianji also smiled. Lin Muyu asked again, "Then, how do you use the wind stone to form the wind saw?" "This is more profound." Luo Tianji said, "Uncle, do you understand the 8 trigrams?" "Yes, I know a thing or two." The 8 trigrams are divided into Qian, Kuan, Sun, Jin, Qin, Li, Zhen, and Dy, which reinforce and restrain each other. The operating principle of the wind raw stone is the same as the 8 trigrams. At least 8 wind raw stones are needed to facilitate the birth of the wind saw. The power of these 8 wind raw stones is endless and circulates. The stronger the power of the raw stones, the more powerful the wind saw will be. "Oh, Senior, could you explain it in detail?" Luo Tianji smiled slightly. He took out a half-burnt wooden stick from the pile of firewood. Soon after, he drew a diagram on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he had drawn out the positions of the 8 wind attribute raw stones. He said, "The raw stones are all placed at the position of the formation's eye, and the position of the formation center is the range where the wind saw can be produced. The 8 raw stones can be activated at the same time, and its lethality is exceptionally shocking." As he spoke, Luo Tianji raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu strangely. He smiled and asked, "Why does martial uncle want to learn the wind saw?" "I naturally have my own uses," Lin Muyu smiled mischievously. In her mind, however, the scene of countless dragon knights dancing in the air but falling one by one under the attack of the invisible wind saw appeared. What a moving scene! After a while, the fish soup was made. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had camped outside with Lin Muyu countless times over the years. They had long developed good culinary skills. Therefore, the fragrance of the fish soup had already spread in the Star Spirit Valley. "Senior." Qin Yin held a bowl of fish soup and respectfully offered it to Luo Tianji. Then, she offered a piece of steamed bun that had already been roasted. Luo Tianji trembled as he received the food. His face was full of confusion and gratitude. Soon after, he wolfed down the food. The fish soup was delicious, and the steamed bun was also very soft and delicious. He really did not know how many years it had been since he had eaten such delicious food. "Senior, slow down." Qin Yin could not bear to see it. Luo Tianji choked at once. "Senior?" Qin Yin was stunned. Luo Tianji took another bite of the steamed bun. He looked at the ground and said, "Sigh, for so many years, no one has ever been so nice to an old man like me. They only covet the treasures of the sacred remains." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "In the future, you can live in Dragon City. There is good food and drinks there. It is incomparably xiaoyao." A trace of yearning flashed across Luo Tianji's eyes, but he quickly shook his head and said, I have lived alone for so many years. I have long gotten used to it. My personality is also strange, and I can't get along with anyone. It is better not to cause trouble for Martial Uncle. I will live in Star Spirit Valley. This is my home. I will live here until I die. But this should not be your home. Lin Mu thought for a while and said, but I will respect Senior's wishes. You can live in Star Spirit Valley. I will send a few chefs from Dragon City for you. They will send food to Star Spirit Valley every 10 days so that you can eat and sleep well. When I find a way to leave the ancient mystery territory, I will bring you to the realm of the gods. The Eastern Heaven realm is so big, you will have a foothold there. The realm of the gods? Luo Tianji's lips twitched. He said, if that is really possible, Martial Uncle will give me a new lease on life. Me first. We will talk after we are full. Yes. While chewing on the soft steamed bun and tasting the delicious fish soup, Luo Tianji sat there with mixed feelings in his heart. Looking at Lin Muyu and the others, he was thinking how good it would be if he could have a few children like this. It would be 1,000,000 times better than guarding here for 10,000 years in the cold cave. On the side, Qin Yin, who had finished her meal, placed the Nuwa zither across her legs and lightly played the strings. Suddenly, the graceful Qin Yin's voice echoed in the valley. It was a song of autumn geese that had not been played for a long time. She would take it as a way to help everyone after the meal. The boundless heaven and earth, the majestic mountains and rivers, the cold moonlight shone into the battlefield. The rice river was green, the cool breeze was blowing. The empire's warriors went to the death of the nation, killing all the jackals and wolves. A life of frivolity who will soothe my wounds. The road home can no longer be seen, longing to wear out one's eyes, only to sigh at the high mountains and long rivers unhindered in all directions, forever defending the nation. What harm is there in my soul returning to the ends of the earth? Where will the warrior whose battle robe is broken be buried? Autumn geese, please bring my soul back to my hometown. After the song, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were red. Lin Muyu also felt a little sour in her heart. She had left the empire for a year. How could she not miss the land where she lived for more than 10 years? She did not miss Feng Jixing, Chu Yao, Jin Xiaotang, and the others who stayed there. This was something she had to do. Only with great power could she guard the continent forever. That night, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others left Star Spirit Valley. After meeting Feng Zhanlin, Mochi Lin, and the others, they told them everything about Star Spirit Valley. Dragon City sent 5 emperor gods and 20 divine kings to guard the periphery of Star Spirit Valley. They would take turns every half a month. The next day, Lin Muyu personally escorted the few chefs to Star Spirit Valley. He was most worried that the chefs would be eaten by the flying fish. That would be too evil. Fortunately, the Astral Spirit Valley was no longer what it used to be. The flying fish of the ghost and divine had already been restrained by Luo Tianji in the cave. All they had to do was catch wild beasts to feed them. A few god emperors stood guard outside the cave respectfully. When Lin Muyu brought chef and a large amount of vegetables and meat into the valley, Luo Tianji's dull eyes actually lit up a little. Life in Star Spirit Valley was really too boring. It was rare for it to be so lively. In this way, Luo Tianji could also focus on studying the Mahist sex mechanisms and forging the second dragon. On the third day, Lin Muyu and the others left Star Spirit Valley and returned to the Cave of Gods and Demons to continue cultivating. Shattered Cauldron Realm. The flames of war burned fiercely in the south. Yu City. This once prosperous city had become a wasteland. Lu Yen personally led an army of 80,000 soldiers to sweep through the city of Yu. The southern city wall of the city was almost razed to the ground. The army swept through the city and conquered it within 3 days as if they were crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. In the sky, the dragon riders circled. On the ground, the cavalry had already split into many groups and broke into the city to kill the scattered Qin Kingdom's army. Thud, thud, thud. The horses' hooves stepped on the spring soil. Surrounded by people, Lu Yen entered the city. The entire southern city wall had collapsed. There was mud and blood everywhere. Also, There were scattered purple Yinhua flags of the Qin Empire. Lord Commander! In the distance, a group of soldiers dragged a corpse over. One of the Kiliarchs said, Lord Commander, we have found the corpse of Man Sun. He was known as General Sun. He was one of the few famous generals under Jianghu. It was this person who led less than 10,000 people to resist our attack for a whole 3 days. He's already dead? Lu Yen frowned. Yes, he died in the chaotic battle. Cut off his head to inspire the army. With one strike, Man Sun's head was pierced high up in the spear. The centurion holding the spear galloped on the streets of the city excitedly, shouting loudly, Man Sun has died in battle. Why aren't the rest of the gang surrendering to us? Man Sun has died in battle. Why haven't the rest surrendered? In the distance, a group of children stood in the spring rain. Their bodies were drenched, but they stared blankly at the head impaled on the spear. They didn't know what had happened. They only knew that someone had died and the city had been breached. Commander, are we going to massacre the city? A captaincy asked. Lu Yen frowned. No, we don't have time to massacre the city. Let everyone eat and sleep for a night. Once they're well rested, we will attack Shangyang City tomorrow. As long as we conquer Shangyang City, this Mingshan province will belong to our Blackstone Empire. Yes. Wait a moment. Lu Yen suddenly raised his arm and said, the idiots of Yu City actually dared to try to stop a chariot. They must be punished. Send people to capture 5,000 civilians. Tonight, we will kill them all in the central plaza. This will chill the morale of the army. This will make the dogs of the great Qin Empire not dare to look at the war flag of our Blackstone Empire in the eye. Captaincy thought for a moment and said, Commander, our follow-up troops have arrived. They are the tens of thousands of Iha Nation's troops led by Qin Yi. What do that motley crew want to do? They want to enter the city to rest. That's fine. Lu Yan's lips curled up. This Mingshan province was originally Qin Yi's territory. Tonight, we will kill and punish them. Invite Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others to attend the ceremony. I want them to see how their people are slaughtered. Yes. Chapter 1026. It rained frequently in the south, and at dusk, a fine drizzle poured down without end. When the veil of night descended, the soldiers of the Darkstone Empire lit up torches and illuminated the entire square of Yu City. On the square were a few thousand unarmed commoners of Yu City, and all of them had furious expressions as they cursed at the army of the Darkstone Empire. Thud, thud, thud. Amidst the clattering of hooves, a familiar flag appeared before everyone's eyes. It was the flag of the Iha Nation. Under Lu Yan's invitation, Qin Yi and Qin Huan had come to witness this massacre. Qin Yi was already very old. His originally grizzled hair was now completely white. His hair was so soft that even the pinewood hairpin couldn't hold it in. He didn't bring many people with him, only 2 captaincy and a dozen Kiliarchs. Commander, be careful. A captaincy carefully helped Qin Yi down from his horse. When Qin Yi's boots landed on the rain, he staggered and almost lost his balance. Father! Qin Huan hurriedly supported him, his face pale. Commander, you're here. Lu Yen laughed heartily as he walked forward and cupped his hands. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Qin Yi glanced at the commoners on the square and the elites of the sea and mountain army who were ready to go. He had already guessed what was going on and said, Commander Lu Yen invited us here. I wonder what orders he has for us? No, there are no orders. Lu Yen waved his hand and smiled. Yu City has obstructed us for many days. Now that it has been destroyed, my Blackstone Empire's soldiers have fought bravely. As their commander, I have to commend them. For true warriors, there is no reward more fitting than a massacre. These people of Yu City are stubborn and want to fight us to the death. I'll let them know the consequences of trying to stop a chariot. The Iha Nation is our ally, so it's only natural that we come to watch. Commander, please tell us if there are any flaws in our ocean and mountain army's cavalry formation. As he spoke, Lu Yen raised his arm and shouted, Prepare to charge. In the distance, armored cavalrymen mounted their horses. They raised their shields and spears, while the horses stomped their hooves as if they were anticipating a massacre. Charge! Lu Yen suddenly dropped his arm. The sound of hooves thundered, and the sharp edges of spears and swords gleamed coldly under the light of the fire, making people feel like they were in a harsh winter even though it was a spring day. Among the crowd, the commoners were in a state of panic. Suddenly, a man wearing a low-ranking civil official uniform rushed towards Qin Yi, Qin Huan and the others and shouted, "Great Commander, help! Commander-in-Chief! I'm an official of the Yihe Nation. I'm Zhang Jun from the rearguard commandery of Bailing City. Commander-in-Chief, save me! Young Prince, save me!" It was as if Zhang Jun had seen a life-saving straw. He crazily led a group of people and charged towards Qin Yi, Qin Huan and the others. The Yihe Nation had once flourished, and Qin Yi, the commander, would definitely be able to save his life. Unfortunately, Qin Yi turned his face away, unable to bear to see the scene before his eyes. "Back off!" A group of shield-wielding heavy infantry used their shields to push Zhang Jun and the others away, and even brandished their broadswords in a frenzy. "Commander-in-Chief! Commander-in-Chief!" Despair began to pile up on Zhang Jun's face. Amidst a miserable howl, his left arm was chopped off by a heavy infantry, and fresh blood splattered everywhere. After retreating several steps, his entire body trembled, and the sharp edge of a lance pierced through his chest. It was a black iron lance commonly used by the heavy cavalry of the Blackstone Empire. That heavy cavalry with sharp eyes and quick reflexes spurted his horse past Zhang Jun, grabbing the handle of the lance and pulling it out of Zhang Jun's chest. For a moment, blood and internal organs splattered everywhere. Plop! Zhang Jun weakly knelt on the ground, but his gaze remained fixed in the direction of Qin Yi and Qin Huan until he lay down perfectly straight, becoming a corpse that was gradually cooling down. Qin Yi looked at the dead Zhang Jun with a calm expression, seemingly without the slightest sorrow or joy. Meanwhile, Qin Huan clenched his fists tightly. How could a hot-blooded person like him endure this kind of torture? He clenched his teeth and said, "Commander Lu Yen, these commoners are only unarmed farmers and craftsmen. Why must you be so ruthless? Commander, please be lenient. Is Young Highness pleading for this group of rebels?" Lu Yen looked at him and faintly smiled. "Is that so? You can say that?" Qin Huan said in a low voice. "Don't give me that." Lu Yen sneered. "Was Young Highness this kind of benevolence when you controlled half of the empire? I'm afraid not. As the saying goes, the merciful cannot command an army. Young Highness should understand such a simple truth. The people of the Qin Empire are like weeds on the ground, lowly and tenacious. If we don't uproot them now, they will soon take root and sprout, smelt iron and forge weapons, and become the enemy of my Blackstone Empire. Young Highness need not plead for leniency. I, Lu Yen, know what to do. But don't say any more, unless Young Highness wants to become one of them." Lu Yen waved his hand and smiled. "The Commander-in-Chief is an outstanding talent of Lingnan. Although I, Lu Yen, am ruthless, I still want to leave a bloodline for the Lingnan Qin family. I hope Young Highness knows what you should do and what you shouldn't do." Qin Huan was startled and didn't say anything else. Lu Yen was someone who would do what he said. He was not just an ordinary kind of ruthlessness. At this time, Lu Yan's advisor, Bailey Yen, walked forward in a black robe and respectfully cupped his hands at Qin Yi. "I am Bailey Yen, greeting the Commander-in-Chief of the Yihe Nation." Qin Yi nodded. "Mister, you don't have to be so courteous. If you have any orders, just say them. Then I won't beat around the bush. The Haitian army has been attacking your city for days and has suffered heavy casualties. The soldiers need rest, so I would like to ask the Commander-in-Chief to lead the Yihe Nation's army of 100,000 to open a path in front and attack Shangyang City like lightning. If we can take Shangyang City before Xiangyu is prepared, it will be a great achievement." Qin Yi's eyes couldn't help but turn cold. "Mr. Bailey, are you planning to let the Yihe Nation's army attack Shangyang City first?" "That's right." Bailey Yen smiled faintly. "But you don't need to worry, Commander-in-Chief. The Blackstone Empire's army of 100,000 will be arriving soon. They will hold the line for you from the rear. If you can't take Shangyang City, we will naturally take your place. Qin Yi's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. He felt like he was being roasted over a fire. Bailey Yen wanted to use someone else to do his dirty work, but there was nothing he could do. He was being controlled at every step and had no control over himself. After a while, Qin Yi cupped his hands and said, "I will solemnly obey the commander-in-chief. However, I hope that you can prepare all the provisions, weapons, and war horses that the Iha nation needs." "Don't worry, Commander-in-Chief. I will naturally prepare everything. The Haitian army will depart tomorrow morning, so I hope that you will immediately lead the army to attack. Speed is the most important thing in war. We cannot give Xiang Yu too much time to prepare." "Yes." Qin Yi's face was pale, and his aged body was slightly stooped. He didn't even look half as imposing as the commander-in-chief of the Iha nation, Qin Yi. The sounds of fighting and the screams of misery gradually came to a stop. Just like that, the 5,000 citizens of Yu City had all become sacrifices to the butcher's knife. To the Blackstone Empire's army, which was known for their savagery and cruelty, this was a common occurrence. Given that they had sufficient provisions, it was already good enough that they didn't eat people. As for the faint sounds of women crying and the shouts of looting, they turned a deaf ear to them. Yu City was less than 100 kilometers away from Shangyang City. Even infantry soldiers would be able to reach it in a day and a night. Qin Yi didn't know what the fate of the Iha nation's final army was, but at this moment he regretted it. He regretted killing his older brother, Qin Jin, and dividing the world into two. However, he only had one choice, and once he made it, there was no turning back. Qin Yi knew that neither he nor the Iha nation had a path of retreat, so he could only continue forward. Even if there was a steep cliff in front of him, he could only blame himself if he fell and his bones were crushed. At the east of Shangyang City, the Darkstone Empire's army in the city streaked towards Shangyang City in an endless stream while the cavalry at the front had already set up camp less than 2.5 kilometers away from Shangyang City. It was taboo for the cavalry at the front to advance rashly. However, this powerful army was led by the Darkstone Empire's dragon riders, Fu Yun. The few tens of dragon riders circling in the air were enough to make the imperial army of the Great Qin Empire in Shangyang City tremble with fear. Xiang Yu had given the order to close the gates and not engage in battle, to defend the city to the death and wait for reinforcements. Thus, Fu Yun could only wait for Liu Yan's army to join forces with him. After all, he wasn't that arrogant to attack Shangyang City alone. Xiang Yu and the others in the city weren't to be trifled with either. Which one of them hadn't fought in the wind and rain for close to a decade? At dusk, the entire Fu Yun's camp seemed to be dyed with a layer of blood. The dragon riders had already settled down in the camp, and an endless stream of supplies was being delivered from outside the camp. These were all supplies that had been plundered from nearby cities and villages, including food, livestock, and even living people. To the Blackstone army, living people were also a form of rations, and mobile rations at that. "Report." The messenger rushed in. "Lord Fu Yun, we've captured a spy. He claims to be from Lanyan City." "Lanyan City?" Fu Yun put down his chopsticks and said, "Lanyan City is thousands of kilometers away from here. Have they already learned of the situation here?" "I don't know. This spy says he wants to see you, Lord Fu, and has brought an extremely important letter." "Oh? Bring him in." "Yes, Lord Fu." Not long after, a wretched-looking man with his hands tied behind his back walked in and immediately knelt on the ground. General, please don't kill me. I'm here to be a messenger." "Messenger?" Fu Yun couldn't help but laugh. "There's actually such an ugly and cowardly messenger in this world? Men, bring him out and behead him." "Wait, General, read the letter first." Bring the letter up." The letter was a kind of rice paper with a faint fragrance. In the world of scholars in Lanyan City, many people would use this kind of rice paper made from special peachwood pulp. However, it was too expensive, so ordinary people couldn't afford it. A few lines of words were written densely on the rice paper. The title was Lord Commander of the Blackstone Empire Army, and the inscription was Generals of the Qin Empire Army. Fu Yun glanced at it and couldn't help but laugh. Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and Lu Xiu. Why aren't these people enjoying their lives in the imperial capital? Why are they working with the Blackstone Empire? Chapter 1027. The emissary said, Feng Jixing is arrogant and has repeatedly spoken rudely to the lords of the national army. This time, the troops have entered Lingnan. I'm sure Feng Jixing wants to take this opportunity to get rid of all of you, so, the national army doesn't plan to sit and wait for death. Instead, we've decided to cooperate with your army and work together from the inside and outside to eliminate Feng Jixing's 80,000 imperial guards in one fell swoop. In this way, we can march straight in and kill all the remnants of the Great Qin Empire. Fu Yun smiled and said, Then, what do you need me to do? Get rid of Feng Jixing. The emissary knelt on one knee and said, The only people the national army is afraid of are Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Chu Chu, Chu Yao, Sidu Sen, and other God-state warriors. We know that the Blackstone Empire has countless powerful warriors. Therefore, we would like to ask for your help to eliminate these lackeys of the Qin Empire. Where are Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi? Fu Yun asked faintly. I really don't know, Fu Yun sneered and said, You have a good plan. Unfortunately, it is too wishful thinking. If Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi show up, how are we going to resist them? The emissary was shocked and said, General, go back and tell Zhuang Yan and Su Changjing that I can cooperate with them. As long as Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and the others show up, the Blackstone Empire will naturally eliminate them. However, the terms of the cooperation must be changed. North Ridge can only give you Qihai Province and Yunzhong Province. As for Lanyan City and Wugu City, they will all belong to the Blackstone Empire. Yes, I will go back and report this. Yes. Fu Yun faintly smiled. As a sign of sincerity, I have a silver tiger seal here that can mobilize 3,000 troops of the Blackstone Empire. I'll give it to you. Have Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others write a joint letter to me to express their sincerity. In addition, I want all of their official seals to be handed over to me. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about any cooperation. Yes. The emissary was a yes man, and he only had the courage to nod his head. How could an ordinary mortal withstand the aura that Fu Yun displayed? It was already very good that he didn't piss his pants in terror. In 100 Ridge City, the stars were dim. On the third day after receiving the news, the Imperial Army's 30,000 cavalrymen arrived at the city. The army needed supplies to advance, and 100 Ridge City was one of them. The news of the Blackstone Empire attacking the Mingshan province had already spread, and the citizens of 100 Ridge City felt insecure. However, when Feng Jixing's army arrived, the citizens finally calmed down. Feng Jixing was a famous general of the empire, and his reputation was second only to Lin Muyu. In the hearts of the citizens of the empire, he was like a god. The warhorse neighed as Feng Jixing rode at the front, directly entering 100 Ridge City. The citizens lined the streets on both sides to welcome him. When will Su Jiantao's troops arrive? Feng Jixing asked. At the side, Luo Yu cupped her fists and said respectfully, 1 day later. Su Jiantao only has 10,000 cavalrymen under him, so he will lead the cavalrymen and infantry to protect the supply wagons and equipment. It is estimated that he will bring a total of 20 deicide cannons, 300 magic crystal cannons, and close to 20,000 artillery shells. Su Jiantao, that bastard. The corners of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. You indeed knows how to make good use of people. This Su Jiantao is steady in his conduct, unlike Zhang Wei, who is impatient and rash. He can indeed be considered a general who can take charge of an entire area. However, it seems that it will be a little too late for him to arrive. I'm afraid that Xiangyu won't be able to withstand Lu Yan's offensive. If Shangyang City is breached, then the situation in Lingnan will be on the verge of collapse. Zhang Wei grinned. I think that commander is worrying too much. Xiangyu isn't that weak, and Lu Yan isn't that powerful. What's more, Shangyang City has several deicide cannons and over 100 magic crystal cannons. I don't believe that Xiangyu's troops will be so easily crushed. Moreover, Shangyang City is sturdy and has ample resources. It won't be a problem for them to hold out for a month. That's true, but if something unexpected happens, how will we deal with it? Feng Jixing looked southward, his eyes filled with worry. Luo Yu coughed and said, "Commander, are you worried that Xiangyu will rebel?" Feng Jixing smiled faintly. "I don't know what I'm worried about either. As for Xiangyu, his loyalty to Her Highness Yin is still trustworthy. However, it's hard to say whether a person can maintain his faith in a difficult situation. If we delay, I'm afraid that we will disappoint Xiangyu. Therefore, the earlier we arrive at Shangyang City, the better." "Then what do you plan to do, Commander?" "Order the army to rest here for a day. The day after tomorrow, when Su Jiantao's troops arrive, they will immediately bring his cavalry to reinforce Shangyang City. Then," Luo Yu's expression was a little worried as she said, "What about the National Army? By this time tomorrow, the front of the National Army might have already arrived. Are we going to hand 100 Ridge City over to the National Army? Bring the National Army with you." The next day, Su Jiantao led an army of 50,000 troops to Bailing City and joined forces with Feng Jixing. Together with the National Army's tens of thousands of troops, they headed for Shangyang City together. At this time, the situation outside Shangyang City was already tense. The sun was high up in the sky, and it was almost noon. The Iha country's army of 100,000 was in formation outside the city. On the city wall, Xiangyu held his bloodthirsty spear and looked coldly into the distance. There was a rider galloping towards them, holding the flag of the Iha country. He seemed to be a negotiator. "Don't shoot. Let him come to the city wall," Xiangyu said faintly. A group of archers lowered their bows. Below the city wall, the general holding the flag of the Iha country had a pockmarked face. He was about 30 years old and wore the title of captaincy. He looked at the city wall from afar and shouted, "Where is Dukyu?" Xiangyu leaped up and stood proudly in the air. "I'm here." The pockmarked face laughed loudly. "Dukyu, do you still remember me, Lu Yang? Cousin Lu Zhao, Lu Yang. I remember you." "Dukyu indeed has a good memory." Lu Yang laughed. This time, Commander Qin Yi led 100,000 troops to form an alliance with the Blackstone Empire to recover the lost land in Lingnan. Wherever the army passed, it was like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. "Dukyu is a smart man. Don't be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. You can also gain the reputation of a marquis. What do you think, Dukyu?" Xiangyu laughed loudly. "The remnants of the Iha country are like stray dogs. Now, they are being held hostage by the bandits of the Blackstone Empire. Please go back and tell Qin Yi that the only reason the Iha country has been defeated again and again for the past 10 years is that it does not have a true backbone. Your entire country is a bunch of spineless trash. If you had half the tenacity and bravery of the Qin Empire, would you have fallen to such a state?" "You!" Lu Yang was furious. He pointed his spear at Xiangyu and said, "Are you really going to put up a stubborn resistance?" Xiangyu smiled faintly. "If the Iha country wants to attack the city, then attack. What's with all this nonsense? Lu Yang, you are Lu Zhao's cousin. Although you are not as powerful as Lu Zhao, your ability to bend your knees is not inferior to Lu Zhao's. Fine, just you wait." Lu Yang left with a red face. On the city wall, the old general Lu Yongchang frowned. "Dukyu, why did you provoke Lu Yang? Once this kind of villain goes crazy and bites people, it will be terrible." Xiangyu's eyes were cold. He suddenly looked up at the sky and sighed. "I need to give the world an explanation. I need to give an explanation to the ancestors of the Xiang family." "What explanation?" Xiangyu said faintly. "For so many years, there have been rumors in the empire that I colluded with Qin Yi and the Iha country. They say that I, Xiangyu, am not a subject of the Qin family. Now is a great opportunity. Even if I have to bleed dry, I will prove to the world that the word betrayal has never been in the Xiang family's teachings." Lu Yongchang was speechless. Perhaps Xiangyu was right. They had to face the Iha country. A bloody battle was coming. Below the city, the war drums rumbled. the Iha country's formation began to change. Large-scale siege chariots and scaling ladders appeared among the crowd. They approached the city under the protection of the heavy shield-bearers. Lu Yongchang raised his arm. Aim the magic crystal cannons. Once they are within range, fire immediately. But remember, don't waste any cannonball. Fire one every 15 minutes. Just delay the Iha country's attack. There is no need for us to waste time with the Iha country. The real enemy is behind them. Boom, boom, boom. Mushroom clouds rose from the ground outside the city. The improved magic crystal cannons were even more powerful. The difference in equipment between the two sides was too great. The Iha country did not even have a single heavy cannon. How could they be a match? In the blink of an eye, they had already suffered heavy losses. Many soldiers even lost their will to fight and began to retreat. Don't retreat. Attack with me. Lu Yang raised his long saber and shouted loudly. But it seemed to be meaningless. A large number of Iha country soldiers still retreated. They were already scared out of their wits by the power of the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi and Qin Huan stood on the general's platform in silence. Right at this moment, there was chaos in the rear. A group of sea and mountain army soldiers on warhorses had arrived. Lu Yen held his long sword and shouted, "Qin Yi, where is your law enforcement team? Why aren't you enforcing the law immediately when there are deserters?" Qin Yi said shakily, "Commander Lu Yen, the enemy's cannons are too powerful. We also, what nonsense are you spouting?" Lu Yen roared. "Orders must be strictly enforced. Deserters must be severely punished. Men, come with me and kill them. Behead anyone who turns back." Hundreds of Blackstone Empire cavalry raised their sabers and charged over. Without any explanation, they began to kill the Iha country soldiers. "Bastard!" On the general's platform, Captain Si Lin Sun unsheathed his sword and roared, "Lu Yen is too much. I can't take it anymore. I'd rather fight to the death with the Blackstone Empire than suffer this humiliation." In the distance, Lu Yen raised his eyebrows and said, "Yo, it's rare for the Iha country to have a general with backbone. Come, I'll wait for you to kill me." Qin Huan hurriedly shouted, "Lin Sun, are you crazy? You're a soldier. How can you go against your superiors without orders? Retreat immediately." Lin Sun gritted his teeth but didn't retreat. "Men, disarm and drag him down." Qin Yi said indifferently, "Commander." Lin Sun's eyes were filled with tears. "We've been bullied to this extent. Do we still have to swallow this humiliation?" "Drag him down." Qin Yi's gaze was indifferent. "Without my orders, Lin Sun cannot be reinstated. A bunch of cowards." Lu Yen smiled fiercely and sheathed his blood-stained sword. He said, "Attack the city. Kill anyone who dares to fight." Chapter 1028. On the 20th day of the 4th month, a dense horde of cavalry swept in from the north. The banners of the Imperial Army, Songnan Army, and National Army fluttered in the wind, looking imposing. However, when the army was about 20 li away from Shangyang City, Feng Jixing ordered them to stop and set up camp, forming a standoff with the Blackstone Empire's army. On the other hand, the Iha Nation's army had been attacking Shangyang City for the past 2 days. Not only had they failed to conquer the city, but they had also lost more than 20,000 soldiers. Thousands of people had even died at the hands of Lu Yan's law enforcement squad. At night, the entire Iha Nation's defeated camp was dead silent. Inside the large tent, Qin Yi sat on the commander's seat. The candlelight beside him flickered in the strong wind as if it would go out at any moment. Qin Huan, Lu Yang, and the others stood on either side of him with ugly expressions on their faces. "We cannot continue attacking like this." Qin Huan gritted his teeth. "Otherwise, the last of the Iha bloodline will all die here. Royal Father, we cannot continue to be controlled by Lu Yen. Lu Yan's heart is like a jackal. He has no intention of cooperating with the Iha kingdom at all. Instead, he is using the blood of the Iha kingdom soldiers to deplete Shangyang City's heavy cannons and arrows. Once the Iha kingdom loses its value, Lu Yen will definitely not let us off." Lu Yang was stunned and said in a low voice, "Young Highness, lower your voice. The walls might have ears, huh?" Qin Huan could not help but laugh. "We are so careful. Are we still the Iha kingdom of the past? Back then, didn't the Iha kingdom hold up the banner of treating all people as benevolent and treating all people as equals? Now, we can peacefully watch as our people are slaughtered by jackals and wolves, and peacefully watch as the Iha kingdom's warriors are slaughtered by our enemies. I cannot accept this." Huantu. Qin looked up at his son and said, "Calm down. No one wants to see today's situation, but what can we do?" Qin Huan said, "Does royal father not know that Feng Jixing has arrived?" "I know." "Then does royal father know who else has come with Feng Jixing?" "Su Jiantao and the generals of the national army, as well as Feng Jixing's lackeys Zhang Wei and Luo Yu." Qin Huan smiled faintly. "Father knows a little, but not everything." "How so?" "I've already sent people to investigate. The people who followed Feng Jixing to Mingshan province were the former Marshal Ding Shi of Iha country, as well as Ding Sanging and the others under Ding Shi. Ding Shi is now the main general of the rear army of the Great Qin Empire. He single-handedly manages all the provisions and supplies, and controls the lifeline of the Great Qin Empire's army." "Oh!" Qin Yi's eyes lit up. "Huan, what do you mean? Defeat the Qin Empire through Ding Shi?" "No." Qin Huan shook his head and frowned. "Feng Jixing can't be defeated. If Feng Jixing is defeated, our Iha country will vanish instantly. Villains like Lu Yen and Fu Yun will not let us go. In my opinion, times have changed. We should join hands with Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing's enemies are Lu Yen and Fu Yun, and our enemies are also Lu Yen and Fu Yun." "No, we can't." Qin Yi shook his head suddenly. "It's impossible for the Iha country and the empire to cooperate anymore. Huan Yu, give up this idea." "Royal father." Qin Huan didn't give up persuading him. He continued, "What royal father is worried about is nothing more than the war 12 years ago. But now things have changed. The empire has suffered from the wars of the Demon Tribe, the Tianji Empire, and the Blackstone Empire. They have suffered from the war and can't bear the pain of war anymore. How much hatred will they have for the Iha country? But now, Feng Jixing has less than 100,000 soldiers, while Lu Yen and Fu Yun have about 140,000 soldiers. They are definitely not under Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing is a smart man. He naturally knows how to win the war with the least cost." Qin Yi seemed a little tired. He leaned back on the chair softly and said, "What do you think?" Lu Yang said, "Maybe this is the best result." The other captaincy also nodded. "Commander, please make a decision." Qin Yi sighed. "Then, let's discuss how to join hands with Feng Jixing. What is the bargaining chip of the alliance? We need to see Feng Jixing first." Qin Huan frowned and said, "I am willing to go to see Feng Jixing at night." "Royal father, please let someone go with me." "Tell me who." "Lin Sun." "The Lin Sun who hit Lu Yen 2 days ago?" "Yes." Qin Huan said in a deep voice, "Royal father, you may not know this, but Lin Sun is the cousin of Iha country's General Lin Yu. He used to follow Marshal Long Qianlin and later became very close to Marshal Ding Shi. Therefore, it may be safer to bring Lin Sun to the Imperial Army's camp. After all, even if Ding Shi doesn't give me face, he will at least give face to his old friend, Lin Sun. But do you know how dangerous this trip will be?" "I know, but I am willing to take the risk." "Permission granted." Qin Yi waved his hand slightly and said, "You and Lin Sun should change into the clothes of craftsmen, and pretend to be laborers who are transporting wood for the catapults. Otherwise, Lu Yen and Fu Yun will never let you go." "Yes, I know. On the way, take care." Qin Yi looked at him deeply and suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He found that his son had begun to understand how to take responsibility, but it was the same as pushing him onto the road to ruin. When it was almost dawn, a group of people appeared on the main road pushing a flatbed cart. It was Qin Huan, Lin Sun, and the others. They had changed into craftsmen's clothes and escaped the disaster. Otherwise, they would have become food for the Blackstone Empire. Lin Sun's eyes looked into the distance. There, a group of cavalry was galloping over. Young Prince, it's the Qin Empire scouts. Everyone be on guard. As a soldier, it was inevitable for Lin Sun to react to this kind of situation. No, wait a moment. Qin Huan said in a low voice, don't resist. You don't need to say anything. I'll do the talking. In the darkness of the night, silver and gold emblems with purple flowers flashed on the backs of the horses. In the blink of an eye, the 100 scouts of the Imperial Army were already comparable. Compared to the Uprising Kingdom scouts, the Imperial Army scouts were simply too elite. They were well trained, their swords and armor were bright, and their battle strength was naturally on a completely different level. Feng Jixing trained his troops and strived for perfection. There was no doubt about this. Who are you? The Imperial Army's centurion shouted in a low voice. We're locals. Qin Huan walked forward with a Lingnan accent and said respectfully, Sir, we're just laborers transporting wood. Transporting wood? The centurion glanced at the flatbed cart and said, Where's the wood? It's already been sent to the Blackstone Empire's main camp. So you're saying you're a spy? No, not a spy. Qin Huan said, Sir, I'm a relative of General Ding Shi. Here, this is General Ding Shi's cousin, Ding Sun. General Ding Shi's cousin? The centurion frowned. What are you doing here? Are you here to visit relatives? Now that the war is imminent, such a small matter cannot be tolerated. Leave quickly. Qin Huan gritted his teeth, but we want to see General Ding Shi. Perhaps, Sir can take us as spies and hand us over to General Ding Shi. Oh, I've never seen such shameless people who want to be taken away. The centurion smiled slightly. Men, check if they have any weapons. Take them all away, but not to see Ding Shi, but to see our vanguard general, Zhang Wei. Qin Huan was shocked. The sky gradually brightened. Zhang Wei dashed through the camp in his military boots, sword in hand. From afar, he saw the Imperial Army scouts escorting a group of people in. Who are these people? Zhang Wei frowned. We suspect that these people are spies. They insist on seeing Ding Shi. They're from Lingnan, right? Since they insist on seeing Ding Shi, all the more we can't bring them to him. Bring them away with me and let the Lord Commander decide. In the central tent, after a group of spies were escorted in, Feng Jixing immediately stood up and squinted at one of them. He suddenly smiled. I was wondering who it was, so it's an esteemed guest. Young Highness Qin Huan, it's been a long time. In a flash, 7 years have passed. I thought Young Highness was already hanging on the dragon-shaped island. Qin Huan's face was livid. General Feng, why make fun of me? Qin Huan is only a messenger. I'm here on behalf of Father Qin Yi to discuss military affairs with General Feng. Military affairs? Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Young Highness who only knows how to flirt and have fun in Xiaoyao, what kind of military affairs can you discuss? Qin Huan gritted his teeth. General Feng is too prejudiced against me. I only want to cooperate with you and bring some news that might interest you, General Feng. General Feng is naturally a famous general, but I'm afraid General Feng doesn't know how many dragon riders Lu Yen and Fu Yun have, where their dragon riders reside, where the dragon's food comes from, where the rations for their 150,000 troops are located, and where their water source comes from. I know all of these very well. Feng Jixing became serious. Then, how do you want to cooperate, Young Highness? We'll work together to annihilate Lu Yan's troops. Together with Xiang Yu's troops in Shangyang City, we'll have 3 armies. We'll definitely be able to defeat Lu Yan's troops in one fell swoop. Then, what's the bargaining chip? Qin Huan took a deep breath. Let our Iha nation return to Lingnan and have a place to rest. In your dreams, Feng Jixing said coldly, there's only one way for Iha nation. Kneel down and surrender to me, surrender to my Qin Empire. Otherwise, the day I, Feng Jixing, defeat Lu Yan's troops will be the day you die. Maybe you'll become Lu Yan's food before that day comes. Young Highness, why don't you kneel down? As he spoke, Feng Jixing's divine power came out of his body. His caste immortal personality glowed with a domineering light. His realm spread out instantly, making people feel like they were in a raging purgatory. Qin Huan frowned and his body trembled violently. He couldn't help but slowly lower his body and kneel in front of Feng Jixing. His voice trembled. Qin Huan is willing to surrender. Chapter 1029. What's going on? The curtain of the tent was lifted, and Ding Shi came in wearing a set of exquisite and mighty armor. The 3 golden stars on his collar were shining brightly. His status in the Qin Empire was not low either. He was a commander-level warlord, and to a certain extent, he was on an equal footing with Feng Jixing. Qin Huan. When Ding Shi saw the man kneeling on the ground, he couldn't help but be shocked. Feng Jixing immediately withdrew his domain and said with a smile, "General Ding Shi is here." When the domain disappeared, the uncomfortable feeling in Qin Huan's body instantly disappeared as well. However, his face was covered in cold sweat. No one knew how profound Feng Jixing's cultivation was, but it was clearly not something that ordinary people could match up to. What the hell is going on? Lin Sun? Ding Shi found another acquaintance. Lin Sun hurriedly saluted and said, "General Ding, we have nowhere to go. Lu Yan doesn't treat us as human beings at all. Many soldiers of Iha country died tragically under Lu Yan's butcher knife. So the commander and the young prince have decided to cooperate with the empire to fight against Lu Yan's army." "It's not cooperation." Feng Jixing waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's surrender. Iha country has surrendered to the empire. This must be made clear." Qin Huan slowly stood up and said, "Surrender then, but there's no time to lose. Lu Yan ordered us to attack Shangyang City every day, and many people will die every day. General Feng, please make a decision as soon as possible." Feng Jixing nodded and asked, "General Ding Shi, what do you think?" Ding Shi also roughly knew what had happened. He nodded and said, "Our provisions and troops are not fully sufficient. It will take at least 10 days for the Imperial Army's infantry to arrive here. If we fight with Lu Yan's army now, I'm afraid the odds of winning are only 50-50. Even if we win, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. Besides, the National Army, Shu." Feng Jixing suddenly made a gesture of silence and said with a smile, "Someone, arrange for the young prince to rest first. I'll discuss it with Marshal Ding Shi. The rest of you—" "Yes, Commander." In the blink of an eye, there were only 2 people left in the tent. Ding Shi looked puzzled. "What's wrong, General Feng?" Feng Jixing said in a low voice, "We captured a person yesterday, and he's one of Zhuang Yan's men. We obtained information from him that Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others have already decided to submit to Lu Yan and Fu Yun, whereas the condition Lu Yan and Fu Yun raised was for Zhuang Yan and the others to write a joint declaration, hand over their official seals, and hand over all the supplies the Imperial Army brought along to the Darkstone Empire. I presume that Zhuang Yan will surely make a move in the next 2 days." "Zhuang Yan, that bastard, is he really going to betray the Empire?" Ding Shi's tone was somewhat agitated. "It's only a matter of time before this kind of villain betrays us. However, it's a good thing that he betrays us now. I plan to beat him at his own game and send our gift to Lu Yan as a meeting gift." "What do you mean? Commander Feng has a plan?" "Yes." Feng Jixing nodded and said, "There are more than 50,000 soldiers in the National Army, and the only things they're carrying are some dry rations and the magic crystal crossbows they've asked for in every possible way. There are about 50,000 bolts in the magic crystal crossbows. I'm guessing that Zhuang Yan will definitely offer these magic crystal crossbows to the Blackstone Empire because the magic crystal crossbows and cannons are what the Blackstone Empire fears the most. I'm going to increase the amount for the National Army and offer the magic crystals of the Forbidden Army and Dark South Army to Lu Yan. The people of the Blackstone Empire don't know how to use magic crystals, so it's the same as picking up a hot potato. As long as we light one of them, it'll cause a chain of explosions. At that time, with our tens of thousands of cavalry attacking, it's not impossible for us to win with our numbers." Ding Shi couldn't help but laugh loudly. Feng Jixing's eyes widened. "Say something, what are you laughing at?" Ding Shi stopped laughing and said, "I'm laughing because Marshal Long Qianlin was right. Among the generals of the Qin Empire, only Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing are scheming and full of evil tricks. There's no idea you can't come up with. Now it looks like it's true. Others attack me and let me ask you, is this idea feasible? It's feasible. Ding Shi nodded. But it's also difficult. First of all, how will you add the magic crystals of the Forbidden Army and Dark South Army to the National Army's gift? That's the first problem. Haha. Feng Jixing laughed and patted Ding Shi's shoulder. Brother, you're not as good as me. Do you know that Zhuang Yan has 4 great generals? Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li. These 4 generals are the most valued by Zhuang Yan. And these 4 people have long been bribed. Their families have all moved to Lanyan City to live, and I've treated them to more than a banquet. Zhuang Yan thinks that the people around him are his own people, but he doesn't know that I've already planted a lot of spies. Ding Shi was speechless. Schemer. No, this is called a man of great ambition doesn't care about trifles. Then did you stay in the brothel after drinking the banquet? No, how can I, Feng Jixing, be that kind of person? Your face is red. I must be right. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth. Let's skip this and continue to talk about military affairs. This matter still needs General Ding Shi's cooperation to ensure that nothing goes wrong. General Feng, please speak. From today on, I'll hand over all the defense of the camp to you. Once Zhuang Yan and the others make a move, General only needs to chase and kill them. There's no need to kill them all, just send them to Lu Yan's camp. And I'll naturally train my troops and wait for this massacre. All right. Ding Shi looked at the sky outside and said, the next few days will be very dangerous. General Feng, please be careful. Perhaps Fu Yun will send someone to assassinate you. Don't worry, Ouyang Yan and the 4 absolutes of white leaves are here. Fu Yun doesn't have that much courage. That's good. Just a day later, the Imperial Army made their move. At night, a row of carriages carrying heavy goods left the camp. Who's there? The patrolling Imperial Army soldier raised a torch and asked loudly, what's on the carriage? On the carriage, a man lifted his cloak and shouted in a low voice, are your dog eyes blind? You don't even recognize me? Oh, so it's Commander Zhuang. Going out so late at night? What's on the carriage? Please let us take a look. This is our duty. Commander, please don't make things difficult for us. It's all some grass and bran that the horses don't eat. They'll be thrown away after they're taken out. This commander is personally supervising the transportation of rations, and you want to inspect it? Yes, please forgive us, Commander Zhuang. Impudent. Zhuang Yan suddenly pulled out his sword and shouted in a low voice, who do you think you are? You don't know your place. You even dare to offend me? The centurion hurriedly said, Commander, please don't be angry. It's just that the wheel marks are so deep. It doesn't look like it's empty. It's better to inspect it. Zhuang Yan's eyes were cold and he didn't say a word. The centurion was stunned for a moment, then smiled sheepishly and said, Since Commander Zhuang is in a hurry, then forget it. At least you know what's good for you. Nearly 100 carriages left the camp in an endless stream. Zhuang Yan also swaggered off together with them. Behind the fence of the camp, 3 figures stood there like mountains. They were Feng Jixing, Ding Shi, and Su Jiantao. They've left? Feng Jixing asked. Yes, they've left. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, send your men to intercept them. There is no need to be serious, just shoot a few people and leave. Su Jiantao immediately passed down the order to secretly gather all the cavalry. 2 hours later, follow me to attack Lu Yan's Central Army. We must shake the morale of the Blackstone Empire's army and make them not have the heart to continue fighting here. Su Jiantao cupped his fists. Ding Shi then said, you can release Yu Shu. Once our army moves, the Iha country and Shangyang City's army must also attack together, otherwise it will be difficult to obtain any merit. Yes, immediately. Late at night, after the convoy had experienced an interception, they arrived at the camp of Lu Yan's army. The torches were brightly lit and Lu Yen, Fu Yun and the rest personally came out to welcome them. However, they saw that the cloth bags of the convoy and the wheels were pierced with arrows. The white feathers were very eye-catching. Zhuang Yan lifted his cloak and dismounted. This subordinate Zhuang Yan greets Commander Lu Yen. Lu Yen sneered and did not speak. In his eyes, Zhuang Yan was just a dog wagging its tail and begging for pity. Inspect the goods. A group of soldiers came forward and used their spears to pierce through the goods on the carriages. Other than the dried cattle and sheep, there were carriages full of magic crystal reserves. Lu Yen walked forward and narrowed his eyes to look at the neatly arranged magic crystal cannons on the carriages and said, "These are the magic crystal cannons that the Qin army is using to fight against us?" Zhuang Yan was stunned. He only thought that they had delivered magic crystal crossbows and did not think that there would be magic crystal cannons. He could not help but look at his subordinates, but they purposely did not look at him. "Yes, Commander." Zhuang Yan could only brace himself and nod. Without these cannons, I want to see how Feng Jixing is going to defend against our cavalry and dragon riders. Lu Yen said in a deep voice, "Send them all into the main camp's armament storage." Just at this time, Fu Yun said, "Wait, and..." Fu Yun floated forward and picked up a magic crystal cannon. However, he found that there was a small red light on it that flickered. He could not help but frown. "What is this?" One of Zhuang Yan's subordinates said, reporting to Darren, "This is the signal of the magic crystal cannon, indicating that it can be used." "So that's how it is." Fu Yun did not understand, so he said with a smile, "Store it." What kind of signal was this? This was just a timed detonation device provided to Feng Jixing by the Celestial Emperor system. There were 10 of them in total, and they were separately hidden in 10 magic crystal cannons. 2 hours later, the sound of heavy iron hooves could be heard on the plains. Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao, and Ding Shi were all dressed in armor. They were looking at the situation in the Blackstone Empire's main camp several li away. It seemed like the magic crystal cannons had not been fired yet. Suddenly, with a burst of noise, a group of people came over. It was Zhuang Yan's group, who were in charge of transporting supplies. However, Zhuang Yan had already been captured by the 4 generals and thrown into the war chariot. "Feng Jixing, you scoundrel!" Zhuang Yan cursed loudly while looking at his trusted subordinates. He roared, "Zhao Qian, Sun Li, you 4 scoundrels, traitors! You are all traitors! General Feng, how should we deal with this person?" Feng Jixing urged his horse forward and looked at Zhuang Yan with disdain. He smiled and said, "Zhuang Yan, Su Chengjing, Lu Shiyu, and the others have committed treason. According to the law, they should be executed. Men, behead Zhuang Yan and use his blood as a sacrifice to the flag." Zhuang Yan cursed as his head was chopped off. Blood splattered 3 feet and dyed half of the Imperial Army's flag red. Right at this moment, the light from the magic crystal cannons suddenly soared into the sky. The detonation was a success. Feng Jixing slowly pulled out the Azure Dragon saber and shouted in a low voice, "Brothers, charge into the main camp. It is time to render meritorious service to the country." Chapter 1030. The sound of war drums and cannons mixed together. Lu Yen was startled awake from his sleep and hurriedly got up. He didn't even have time to put on his armor before he dashed out of the camp. However, he only saw flames soaring into the sky from the armory in the distance. Countless soldiers and warhorses were howling in pain within the flames. In that instant, Lu Yen felt as if his heart had been pierced by a sharp knife. His face was pale as he raised his sword and roared, "What's going on? What exactly is going on?" A Chiliarch ran over in a sorry state and said while trembling with fear, "Commander, an explosion occurred in the warehouse. Those magic crystal cannons that Zhuang Yan donated exploded on their own, triggering a series of explosions. A total of 13 warehouses were affected by the explosions. Most of the tents along the way were also destroyed. We suffered heavy losses. Why did the magic crystal cannons explode?" Lu Yen was so angry that his voice trembled. Why did they explode? The Chiliarch couldn't answer. At this moment, several figures descended from the sky. It was Fu Yun and a few dragon riders. "Commander, we must make a decision quickly and stabilize the army's morale. Otherwise, the army might collapse," Fu Yun said in a low voice. "Where's Bailey Yen? Where is Bailey Yen?" Lu Yen was bold but not astute. At this moment, he could only think of the army's #1 strategist, Bailey Yen. In the darkness, a group of people ran over. Someone shouted, "Mr. Yen is here." Sure enough, Bailey Yen didn't even put on his robes in a hurry. His eyes reflected the flames in the distance. He said, "What exactly happened?" "The warehouse exploded. It was those magic crystal cannons." "We still don't know why," Lu Yen said. Bailey Yan's body trembled slightly. "We were tricked." Lu Yen and Fu Yun were stunned at the same time. "Tricked? Zhuang Yan must have already been seen through. This is Feng Jixing's plan." Bailey Yen clenched his fists. His face was ashen. "We underestimated Feng Jixing too much. We also overestimated the intelligence of Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. Sir, just tell me what we should do now." Lu Yan's face was full of pain. Now that the camp has been ambushed by the magic crystal cannons, and the morale of the army has been shaken, there is nothing we can do to change the situation. We cannot be trapped here. Feng Jixing's subordinates must be arriving soon. Give the order immediately. Dispatch the best team to fight Feng Jixing outside of the camp, and the rest of the people will evacuate the camp with the supplies and go to Lai City. Yes, Lai City. Bailey Yen was slightly at a loss for what to do. His forehead was covered in sweat, and a layer of steam came out from the roasting of the flames. He said, "Lai City wasn't heavily damaged when it was captured, and it can be used as a temporary resting place for us. Hurry up, or else it'll be too late." "All right." Lu Yen raised his sword and shouted, "Where are Fan Ping and Zhang Chao?" Among the group of generals, 2 people stood out. "Immediately lead a total of 10,000 elite soldiers from your headquarters to the north of the camp and form a formation to fight against Feng Jixing's troops. Cover the retreat of the 3 armies. Do it immediately without delay." "Yes, Commander." The 2 generals cupped their hands and left. Lu Yen, on the other hand, couldn't help but tremble. He knew that Feng Jixing was powerful, but he didn't know that Feng Jixing was this powerful, to the point where he could penetrate every opening. Fu Yun's eyes were cold as he said, "I will lead the dragon riders to assist in the battle. Otherwise, these mortals won't be able to stop Feng Jixing for the time it takes to drink a cup of tea." "Thank you, Lord Fu Yun. Then, let's meet at Lai City." "Yes, Commander, let's go." Under the veil of night, the Darkstone Empire's army that was a mix of over 10,000 infantry and cavalry charged out of the campsite and got into formation in the north. Not long after, the dense sound of horse hooves sounded out, and the forest rumbled as the earth trembled. No one knew how many people had come. Fan Ping was a young general, and his face was still somewhat childish. Holding a battle axe in his hand, he said, Can we stop Feng Jixing's army?" "The brave have no fear. We are not afraid of Feng Jixing, so naturally, we won't lose to Feng Jixing." Zhang Chao drew his sword and shouted, "Long contradiction formation, prepare to defend." The best way to defend against cavalry was to use pikemen. A 3-meter-long steel spear could pierce through the bodies of cavalry and horses, and it was cheap to build. Training a pikeman and a steel spear only cost a few coins. However, it was different for heavy cavalry. Each heavy cavalry had to be equipped with at least 2 horses, and each horse had to be maintained by a specialist. Adding on the saddle, armor, and spear, the cost of 1 heavy cavalry was equivalent to the cost of 5 pikemen. If they could trade 1 for 1, it would be worth it. This was also Zhang Chao's wishful thinking. After a long period of war, the Qin Empire's cavalry was already quite sparse, and Feng Jixing had spent who knew how much money to create the 30,000 Imperial Guards. If they could destroy these 30,000 Imperial Guards, the Qin Empire's national strength would definitely be at its weakest. Torches were raised, illuminating everyone's faces. Most of the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire looked exhausted. They had been away from home for too long, and they had almost lost the motivation and courage to continue fighting. The only thing that kept them going was probably the frenzied slaughter, plunder, and ravage of the enemy's women. "They're coming," Fan Ping murmured. As expected, the sound of horse hooves crushing dried branches grew more and more frequent. In the next moment, countless cavalry wearing the armor of the Imperial Army and Songnan Army broke out of the forest, brandishing their shining weapons as they charged. "Fire!" Zhang Chao roared. In the sky, arrows whizzed through the air, and in front of the heavy cavalry, Feng Jixing raised his palm, and a lightning domain wreaked havoc in the air, distorting the arrows within dozens of meters. This was the limit of what he could do, and the heavy cavalry phalanx that could not be covered by Feng Jixing all raised their shields. The heads and bodies of the horses were all wrapped in thick armor, and the damage that stray arrows could do was too little. Zhang Wei raised his sword and madly urged his horse forward. When he was less than 100 meters away, he laughed and said, "Brothers, use the magic crystal crossbows and let these bastards have a taste of our power." One by one, the Imperial Guards released the magic crystal crossbows. Instantly, streaks of azure light fell into the crowd of Blackstone Empire soldiers. In the blink of an eye, small mushroom clouds rose into the sky, and the scorching shockwaves melted the bodies of the pikemen together with their spears. By the time the Imperial Guards got close, the pikemen formation was already useless. "Kill for me!" Feng Jixing roared. He pulled out the Azure Dragon and Crimson Phoenix blades and slashed out waves of flames that engulfed the Blackstone Empire soldiers in the surroundings. Feng Jixing's warhorse was extremely fast. Fan Ping didn't even have time to escape before he crashed into him. He hurriedly raised his battle axe and roared as he slashed at Feng Jixing. Clang! The Azure Dragon blade slashed horizontally, shattering the edge of the battle axe and slicing through Fan Ping's neck. Instantly, a line of blood spread out. The young man couldn't even withstand a single blow, and in the blink of an eye, he fell from his horse and died. On the other side, a ball of raging flames descended from the sky, instantly devouring Zhang Chao's body. In the sky, a beautiful woman walked through the air. With every step she took, a magnificent flame lotus appeared. It was Ouyang Yan. After not seeing her for a long time, her strength had once again increased by leaps and bounds. Fan Ping and Zhang Chao thought that the spears and heavy shields would be able to stop their opponents, but that was not the case. Under the unstoppable destructive power of the demonic crystal crossbow, the spear formation was easily destroyed. Su Jiantao brandished his sharp sword, constantly slashing left and right as he charged forward. However, he suddenly felt a deep chill, and he couldn't help but quickly stop his warhorse. He shouted to the people in front of him, "Zhang Wei, be careful. An expert is coming." In the sky, the figures of dragon knights appeared one after another. At the same time, the huge dragon also roared angrily as it sprayed dragon flames onto the ground. In the blink of an eye, the Imperial Guard and Songnan armies suffered heavy losses. F***CK. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and leaped up. His two sabers slashed at the nearest dragon knight with the power of a dimensional storm. At the same time, he activated the martial god technique. Instantly, the sabers were suffused with a chilling aura, and the killing power was at least doubled. Kacha! The huge black dragon let out a mournful wail. A half-meter-long gash appeared on its neck. Feng Jixing straightened his body and swept his two sabers horizontally. A human head instantly flew into the air. However, before he could catch his breath, two dragon knights attacked him from the left and right. One of them was even a god king. In the blink of an eye, Feng Jixing was in a bitter battle. Ouyang Yan stood in the air without moving. She stood on a huge flaming disc, and with a wave of her hand, a shocking flaming palm print blasted out, causing the dragon knights in the distance to be in a sorry state. In the night wind, a handsome and elegant figure appeared. It was Scholar Ling. His clear eyes watched the slaughter on the ground. Suddenly, the flute in his hand glowed with divine light as it swept across the ground. He said softly, "Freeze." This was a mid-grade Frost Law divine tome. It was extremely powerful. Layer after layer of frost spread out, and in the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 people from the Blackstone Empire were frozen on the spot. They died instantly. The Imperial army passed by like they were breaking dry weeds. With just a light touch, the enemies were turned into a pile of ice fragments. On the ground, the roars of the Beeman King rose and fell. He had already turned into a blood-colored ball of light and was slaughtering everywhere. Suddenly, he rose from the ground and pierced a dragon knight's abdomen. He was extremely powerful. Clang! Amidst the scattering of sparks, Feng Jixing's twin sabers were only able to force back Fu Yun's dragon sword. Gusts of raging wind swept through the surroundings, and Fu Yun's expression was extremely unsightly. He knew that Feng Jixing was very powerful, but he didn't expect that this person had actually advanced to such a level. The saber chi contained sharp flames, wind, and lightning laws, making it impossible to defend against. "My lord, we have lost. Let's go." In the sky, a dragon knight shouted loudly. One of his arms had been chopped off, and blood was flowing non-stop. Fu Yun glared fiercely at Feng Jixing, nodded, and said, "Let's go." Feng Jixing didn't chase after them. As the commander, it was a taboo to underestimate the enemy and advance rashly. In the distance, densely packed torches attacked. They were the people from the Iha Empire, as well as Xiangyu's troops in Shangyang City. They had already launched a surprise attack. For a moment, the Blackstone Empire's army could only be defeated. They were badly mutilated as they fled in the direction of Lai City. Chapter 1031. The pursuit lasted for 3 whole days. Lu Yanjun had almost lost all his warhorses. Feng Jixing, Xiangyu, and the others had already joined forces and released all the civilians that Lu Yanjun had captured as food and sent them back home. Meanwhile, the main force of the Imperial Army and Songnan Army killed countless people along the way. They directly killed their way to Lai City, but due to the lack of provisions, they had to retreat. A mere Lai City could not be defended for long. Lu Yanjun's fate was already at its end. 2 days later, they returned to Shangyang City. The city was decorated with lanterns and streamers, as if the Shangxi festival had come again. The haze of death that shrouded the whole city had ended because of the great victory of Feng Jixing and Su Jiantao. The civilians naturally cheered and danced. After the battle, Lu Yanjun lost more than half of his men, while the Imperial Army and the Songnan Army lost nearly 10,000 men. As for Iha country, they attacked from the flank and were counterattacked by Lu Yanjun. They only had about 30,000 men left. As for the 30,000 soldiers of Iha country, they were now stationed outside Shangyang City. On one side, the Imperial Army and the Songnan Army surrounded and protected them. Although the governor's office of Shangyang City was not as majestic and solemn as Zetian Palace, it had a unique style. Southern-style buildings could be seen everywhere. There were groups of maids and countless attendants. At this time, the governor's office was beating drums and gongs to welcome the arrival of Feng Jixing, Su Jiantao, and other important officials of the empire. This first celebration banquet must be unique and extremely luxurious. At the banquet, Feng Jixing sat in the host seat. After all, he was acting as the marshal for Linmuyu, so his status was naturally above everyone else. Next in order were Su Jiantao, Xiangyu, Ding Shi, Ouyang Yan, Ling Shusheng, Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, and others. The commander-in-chief of Iha country, Qin Yi and Qin Huan, sat after the 20th place. The people next to them had even been reduced to kiliarchs. Qin Yi, on the other hand, looked calm as he sat there without saying a word. Qin Huan looked a little angry. He seemed to be very dissatisfied with the seating arrangement. After all, the social status in the Qin Empire was very clear. The seating arrangement meant the level of status. Obviously, Feng Jixing did not take the people of Iha countries seriously at all. Feng Jixing raised his cup, pondered for a moment, then stood up and said in a clear voice, "When Her Highness Yin, Lin General, and Princess She were in closed-door cultivation, we were guarding the empire's borders. Now that the bandits have invaded our borders, all of us have worked together to chase Lu Yen and the others to Lai City. As long as we have sufficient supplies and fodder, we will be able to sweep them away in one fell swoop. This battle will definitely be decided based on merits. Please rest assured, everyone, Feng Jixing will record down every single merit and reward them together when Her Highness Yin returns. The Empire will never mistreat those who have rendered meritorious service. Is this also considered a reward based on merit? Someone in the 7th row said indignantly. Feng Jixing looked over and smiled. Who are you? The man stood up. I am Liu Yang, the lieutenant of the Iha Kingdom's 3rd Legion. 5 days ago, I led my men and charged into the heart of Liu Yan's army. I killed more than 5,000 men and lost more than 6,000 men. May I ask Commander Feng if this is considered a great achievement? Yes, of course it is. Feng Jixing smiled faintly. Someone, come and take some of General Liu Yang's credit. Oh, I remember now. General Liu Yang's cousin seems to be Liu Zhao, who was ranked first among the 7 marshals of Iha country. Yes. Liu Yang was stunned. General, do you remember what happened at Fire Badger Valley? If I remember correctly, Fire Badger Valley's general also participated, right? Feng Jixing's words were really simple, but there was killing intent in them. Who in the world didn't know that the 30,000 guards army of Fire Badger Valley was killed? That was the biggest humiliation and pain in Feng Jixing's life. He wouldn't be able to forget that painful memory. Naturally, he remembered his enemies clearly. Liu Yang lowered his head and his voice trembled. I am afraid that General Feng remembered wrongly. I was working under the commander and didn't participate in the Fire Badger Valley massacre with brother. It is good that you didn't. Feng Jixing's gaze was ice cold. If I find out, all of you can forget about escaping. All of you have to die. Not only Liu Yang, but even Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and a group of Iha nation's generals felt a chill in their hearts. Now, Feng Jixing's words were no longer as insignificant as before. Feng Jixing was now the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. His words were the imperial edict, and no one could defy it. Qin Yi picked up the wine cup on the table and said, General Feng's memory is really good. However, since you said that, will General Feng start to look into what happened in the past? I won't. These are 2 separate matters. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and smiled. Don't worry, King Zhenan. Feng Jixing is not the kind of person who would do anything for personal gain. The Iha Kingdom has made a great contribution in protecting the country and willingly submitting to the Great Qin Empire. This is a good thing for the people in the world. However, before settling the matter of Lai City, I'm afraid there's one more thing that I need the Iha Kingdom's army to do for me. What is it? Qin Huan asked. The National Army. Feng Jixing said lightly, nearly 50,000 National Army troops are camped 10 miles north. Their commander, Zhuang Yan, has already pleaded guilty and was executed. The National Army colluded with the enemy and committed treason. All officers above Kiliarchs must be executed, but the foundation of the National Army must not be harmed. After all, those soldiers are brave warriors of the Qin Empire. So, I need your brave soldiers to be on standby at all times. When I subdue the National Army, if anyone tries to rebel, they must be suppressed immediately. I wonder if South Protecting King is willing to carry out this task? Qin Yi nodded, his face neither sad nor happy. I am willing. I will listen to General Feng's instructions. Feng Jixing poured a cup of wine and said, Come I Feng, toast all the soldiers of Iha country. You repent in time, which is the good fortune of the Qin Empire. I hope that we can fight the enemy side by side in the future and serve the Empire together. As for the rewards and official titles, I will ask Her Highness Yin when we return to Lanyan City. Everyone's contributions will be indispensable. Dozens of generals of Iha country said in unison, Thank you, General Feng. Qin Yi and his son were silent. At this point, what else could they say? They could only listen to what Feng Jixing said. However, Feng Jixing's intention of letting the Iha country troops suppress the rebel army of the National Army was so deep that it made people tremble. This famous general of the empire seemed to have the intention of watching the dogs bite each other. Qin Yi had no choice and could only do this. In order to protect the last bloodline of Iha country, he could only do this. He could only hope that Feng Jixing was a benevolent general and would not be ruthless. Thinking of this, Qin Yi inadvertently glanced at Qin Huan beside him and saw that there was gratitude on his face. It seemed that the province according to merit that Feng Jixing said had already affected him. Ha! Qin Yi smiled silently. This was also good. Perhaps. 4 days later, the army from the north of the ridge arrived 10 miles away. All 200,000 people of the National Army were stationed in the plains and valleys. On the side were 50,000 people of the Imperial Army and tens of thousands of people of the Zhongnan Army. On the 2nd of May, under Feng Jixing's order, 2,000 notices about the death of the National Army's commander, Zhuang Yan, were sent to all the camps of the National Army. Almost every centurion camp received a notice and every soldier of the National Army knew about this news. In the notice, Feng Jixing ordered all centurions and kiliarchs of the National Army to bring their men to the Imperial Army's camp within 3 days to disarm and accept reorganization and arrangement. Otherwise, they would be charged with treason. On the first day, nearly 100,000 soldiers of the National Army disarmed themselves and accepted reorganization. On the second day, 40,000 people disarmed themselves. On the third day, 20,000 people disarmed themselves. However, there were still 40,000 soldiers who refused to disarm. They were the subordinates of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu. In the middle of the night, stars filled the sky and illuminated the earth. However, the people on the ground were extremely distressed. In the big tent, Lu Xiu and Su Changjing sat opposite each other and drank wine. Their faces were deathly pale. There are only 2 hours left. Brother Su, do you have an idea? Lu Xiu asked. Su Changjing shook his head. What idea can I have? We have offended Feng Jixing too much. Even if we disarm ourselves, will Feng Jixing let us go? Impossible. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu have wanted to kill us for a long time. Then, Brother Su, what do you mean? We will die if we disarm ourselves, but we might have a chance of survival if we rebel. We have more than 40,000 soldiers. If we rebel against the Empire, we can kill our way to Lai City and seek refuge with Lu Yen. Perhaps we can even take a boat from the southern border to the Blackstone Empire to serve Great Emperor Xuan. This is our only chance of survival. Su Changjing gritted his teeth and said each word firmly. Lu Xiu suddenly raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he smashed the cup on the ground. Rebel, pass down my order immediately. Follow me to kill our way out of the valley. All right, we will kill our way out together. Yes. Under the starlight, Su Changjing and Lu Xiu's 40,000 soldiers did not even raise their torches. They just headed straight for the exit of the valley. However, they did not notice the dozens of magic crystal cannons that had been set up in the valley, as well as the tens of thousands of Iha country's soldiers blocking the exit. In the forest on the hillside, Feng Jixing sat on a huge rock with a wine pot in his hand. He said, "It seems that they have made up their minds." Su Jiantao sneered. Su Changjing and Lu Xiu are 2 idiots. Do they really think that they can charge out of the valley with just these few people? General Feng, what should we do? Should we spare the lives of these 40,000 soldiers? No. There is no need to spare them, Feng Jixing waved his hand. We have given them too many chances. However, these 40,000 soldiers are still determined to follow Su Changjing and Lu Xiu. There is no need to spare them anymore. Pass down my order. Kill all of them. Spare none. Yes, I understand. Su Jiantao raised his hand. Immediately, the magic crystal cannons on the mountain spat out tongues of fire. In the next moment, the valley was in an uproar. In the midst of the chaos, Lu Xiu held his sword and shouted, "Don't panic. Charge forward. Once we get out of here, we will have a chance of survival." At the entrance of the valley, a general was guarding with thousands of soldiers and horses. It was Lin Sun, Lin Yu's cousin. He could be considered the person that Feng Jixing and Su Jiantao thought the most of the Iha country's army. Lin Sun slowly raised his palm and said, "Raise your shields and start shooting." Chapter 1032. Ambush. Ambush. In the valley, the generals of the rebel army were pale. Looking at the soaring flames and the dense arrows in the distance, they were in a dilemma. Only Zhuang Yan raised his long sword and shouted, "Do you see the flag? It's the Iha nation's rabble. How capable can a traitor like Qin Yi be? We are the imperial army. Charge forward. Whoever kills Qin Yi will be promoted to lieutenant general captaincy." "Yes, my lord." With a great reward, there would always be brave men. The rebel army was originally a group of desperados. Hearing the promise of a high position and generous reward, they would naturally fight to the death. For a moment, the battle at the entrance of the valley quickly heated up. After nearly an hour, Lin Sun's subordinates ran out of arrows. He immediately raised his long sword and said, "Don't let a single person out. All officers and soldiers, draw your swords and fight with me. Don't let a single one escape." Under the moonlight, the two armies fought fiercely, and blood flowed like a river. On the hillside, Feng Jixing narrowed his eyes and closely observed the situation in the valley. Holding the scarlet phoenix saber, he muttered, "This Lin Sun is a talented general." On the side, Su Jiantao knew that Feng Jixing was a commander who knew how to use the right people. He smiled and said, "Since the Iha nation has already surrendered, then it's only a matter of a word for General Feng to transfer Lin Sun under his command. However, I'm afraid that it will be criticized by the old officials in the court. After all, this Lin Sun is Lin Yu's cousin, and Lin Yu was the main person who caused the disaster in Lanyan City." "Yes," Feng Jixing sighed and said, "but General Su, don't forget that a soldier's duty is to obey orders. Back then, Lin Yu was only Qin Yi's subordinate. It was also his duty to set up the plan. These are two different things. This Lin Sun can fight so bravely against the rebel army. He's brave and resourceful. I must use him." Su Jiantao smiled faintly. "I know I can't persuade General Feng, so I'm just reminding him. If he wants to use him, then use him." The appearance of Liu Yan's army also means that the Blackstone Empire hasn't given up. I'm afraid that another war won't be too far away. The empire is in dire need of manpower. If General Feng disregards the past and uses a general like Lin Sun, it might not be a bad thing. Feng Jixing laughed and patted Su Jiantao's shoulder. "You know me well. Yu's subordinates are too straightforward. Only you and Situ Sin know how to be flexible. Being upright is not necessarily a bad thing. After all, some rules are not easily broken if they are managed by upright people." Su Jiantao said meaningfully. Feng Jixing wasn't paying attention at all. He only said, "After reorganizing the national army, they'll have at least 100,000 people. How do you think we should deal with them?" Abolish the national army, or the national army is a national policy. It's a national policy set by Her Highness and Commander Yu. It's better not to break it. I think so too. Then who do you think should be the new commander of the national army? About this, Su Jiantao thought for a moment and said, "The national army is equivalent to another imperial court. In the future, it will gradually replace the imperial court, and the national army will be the guardian army of the national army. In my opinion, the original commander of the imperial army was Qin Lei. Now, the commander of the national army should be someone from the Qin family. Shizhong Wang Qin Yan is the best candidate." Feng Jixing smiled happily. "That's for the best. It just so happens that a Yan is relatively free now. A mere temple grand deacon isn't his ambition. Let's do this after we return to the imperial capital." Su Jiantao looked at the valley in the distance and said, "Should we attack? Otherwise, I'm afraid that the tens of thousands of volunteer soldiers under Lin Sun's command will be wiped out." "Let's wait a little longer," Feng Jixing said lightly. Su Jiantao was a little surprised. "General Feng, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." "Say it." "Is General Feng planning to use the rebel army to completely destroy the Iha nation's army?" Feng Jixing took a deep breath and glanced at Su Jiantao with a frightening cold light in his eyes. Even the battle-hardened Su Jiantao couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He said, "Could it be that I guessed correctly? Jiantao, you are Yu's trusted subordinate and are like a brother to us. I have to do this even if I don't want to. You should be able to understand my feelings, Feng Jixing said meaningfully. Su Jiantao nodded. I understand. The Iha nation's army is, after all, a rebel army, and Qin Yi is the one who killed the late emperor, Qin Jin. Their crimes are monstrous, so how can the empire tolerate them? The empire can't use Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others anymore. If this blood feud can be forgiven, then the people in the empire are really looking down on the empress. So, Feng Jixing said unhurriedly, I have to help you and Her Highness settle this matter in advance. The empire can't have two emperors if the empire wants to stabilize itself. Those who are loyal to Qin Yi must die. Su Jiantao nodded and cupped his fists. I understand. I'll follow your instructions. Launch the attack in 2 hours. Send out the armored cavalry to kill all the rebel soldiers in the valley. Kill them all. Bring the heads of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu to me at daybreak. I'll go back to sleep for a while. I'll leave the matters here. Yes, Commander. Feng Jixing placed his hand on the hilt of his saber and went into the forest alone. The moonlight shone on his body, reflecting the dazzling light from the 3 golden stars on his shoulder. Su Jiantao couldn't help but feel sad. Feng Jixing had been alone for so many years. How many people could understand what he was shouldering? There were some things that only he could do. While leaving behind the name of a famous general, he also left behind a lot of curses. Scholars all over the world accused Feng Jixing of being a cruel and unfeeling person. All of this could only be endured by him alone. At the side, a captaincy of the Zhangnan army asked, Commander, when do we attack? Su Jiantao's eyes were faint. In an hour. Early morning, in the Imperial Army camp. Su Jiantao was bathed in blood. He walked into the central tent with 2 guards. The 2 guards each held a tray with bloody heads on it. Feng Jixing had just gotten up to wash up. His back was facing everyone. Is it done? Feng Jixing asked. Su Jiantao cupped his fists. The heads of Su Changjing and Lu Xiu have been brought. Commander, do you want to take a look? No need. Feng Jixing began to wash his face. Bury them on the spot according to the etiquette of a chiliarch. In addition, what do you plan to do with the corpses in the valley? Cremate them all. I've already arranged for people to do it. Yes, that's good. Feng Jixing turned around. He took a towel from a servant and wiped his face. How many people from the Iha army died? More than 10,000. Of the remaining 16,000 people, more than 3,000 are seriously injured. Many are so severely disabled that they can no longer pick up weapons. Qin Yi, Qin Huan, Lu Yang, and the others are counting the number of people. The entire Iha army camp is. At this point, Su Jiantao suddenly fell silent. How are they? Feng Jixing asked. They're all crying and screaming. Many of them have some rebellious thoughts. It's normal to have rebellious thoughts. They were originally rebels, so it's not surprising. The corner of Feng Jixing's mouth curled up. But a mere 16,000 people can't make much of a difference. Pass down my order. Arrange for these 16,000 people from the Iha army to be in charge of logistics. Ding Shi will be in charge of them. In addition, call Lin Sun here. Yes. Not long after, Lin Sun, covered in blood and broken armor, rode his horse. He walked straight into the central tent of the Imperial Army camp. He found Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, Su Jiantao, and the other generals there. A trace of reverence flashed across his eyes. Lin Sun quickly walked over and knelt on one knee. General Lin Sun greets the Imperial Army commander. Rise. Feng Jixing smiled. General Lin Sun, do you know why I called you here? Lin Sun was stunned. I don't know, General, what do you think of the Iha army? Feng Jixing asked. Lin Sun was startled. He lowered his head and pondered for a few seconds. Then he looked up and said, the Iha army was originally an army to open up new territories. However, due to improper leadership, they were defeated again and again. They were routed all the way from dragon-shaped island to Mingshan province. Their original 500,000 people were reduced to 10,000 today. This subordinate thinks that the Iha army is brave, but not good at using it. Well said. What do you think of the Empire's army? For example, the Imperial Army, the Dragon's Courage Legion, and so on. Lin Sun's eyes lit up. The Empire's army is brave and loyal. They have fought many battles since 31 years ago. They defend against the demons in the north and Tianji in the east. The 3 steel walls stretch for thousands of miles, forging the iron bones of the Empire's army. This subordinate thinks that the Empire's army is a hero who saves the world. Then, are you willing to join the Empire's army? Feng Jixing asked with a smile. Lin Sun was surprised. Haven't I already joined the Empire's army? That's not it. Feng Jixing fished out a tiger tally and said, this is a captaincy seal of the Imperial Army. It just so happens that the Horse Infantry Army lacks a captaincy. Are you willing to lend me a hand? Lin Sun trembled all over. Just say it. Are you willing or not? But this subordinate is just a... Say it. Are you willing or not? Feng Jixing's voice became more serious. Lin Sun knelt down again and cupped his hands. This subordinate is willing. As long as commander gives the order, this subordinate is willing to go through water and tread on fire. Get up. From now on, you are a member of the Imperial Army. Thank you, Commander. When Lin Sun stood up, Su Jiantao said with a smile, congratulations to General Feng for recruiting another general. Same to you. We are all working for the Empire. Obviously, Feng Jixing was also in a good mood. After arranging for Lin Sun to join the army, he said, how is the preparation of the rations? It will be ready in 3 days. No more waiting. Surround and attack Lai City with 100,000 soldiers. We must take Lai City within 10 days and kill Lu Yan's army. Yes, Commander. 3 days later, the mighty army of 100,000 set out from Shangyang City and headed straight for Lai City. Chapter 1033. On the 10th day of the 5th month, amidst the billowing dust, the mountains and plains of Lai City were already covered with the fluttering purple Yinhua war flags. Feng Jixing had spent 5 whole days to transport 100 magic crystal cannons from Shangyang City. It was evident that he was determined to destroy Lu Yan's army. The weather in early summer was very refreshing. The faint mist turned into dew and sprinkled on the city, causing everyone's armor to be wet. Lu Yan, clad in iron armor, walked on top of the city wall. Looking at the approaching Qin army from afar, he felt a chill in his heart. They had come too fast. Crack! Amidst the lightning, Fu Yun broke through the void and arrived. He cupped his fists slowly and said, Greetings, Commander. Lord Fu Yun, you don't have to be so courteous. Lu Yan's voice even trembled a little. Lord, you saw it too, right? I went to investigate the enemy's situation just now. How many have come? No less than 100,000. The cavalry at the front is already making a detour. Perhaps they will soon surround Lai City. This time, Feng Jixing is serious. I don't think he intends to let us leave Mingshan province. Is there any news from the Empire? Lu Yan was a little tired. He sat on a sandbag under the battlement and leaned on his sword in front of him. There is. Fu Yun said, Lord Longxi of the Thunderflame sect and He Song of the Wolf Valley have joined forces. They have gathered at least 150,000 soldiers. Together with His Majesty the Martial Saint Emperor, we can totally mobilize 500,000 soldiers to fight the Qin army to the death. The only problem is, what is it? We have cleared the forest of Dark Mountain, but we still don't have enough warships. Currently, we only have 800 warships. It's not enough to transport enough soldiers here. Also, there are at least 3 months before the east wind current arrives. I'm afraid we can't wait any longer. Why don't we open the city gates and head straight for the south? We might still have a chance of winning. Forget it. Lu Yan shook his head. There are still more than 10,000 wounded soldiers in the city, and they can't march at all. I can't let them die with me. Lord Fu Yun, I'm afraid our friendship ends here. Please quickly lead the dragon riders out of this desperate situation. You can fly in the sky and return to your home. I, Lu Yen, will lead the army here to fight Feng Jixing and stall them. Fu Yun gritted his teeth and said, His Majesty didn't send me here to bury the sea and mountain army. This absolutely won't do. Lu Yen suddenly laughed in disappointment. You and I are both soldiers of the Empire, so there's no need to be so childish. Go, preserve the strength of the dragon riders. In the future, avenge me, Lu Yen, and the 150,000 brothers of the sea and mountain army. The iron hooves of the Blackstone Empire will trample over every inch of the Shattered Cauldron realm and enslave our enemies. Only then will I be able to smile in the underworld. You have really decided? Fu Yun sighed softly. In that case, Fu Yun will not stop you, Commander. Go, avenge me. Not long after, giant dragons rose into the sky one after another, taking the dragon riders with them as well as the peak strength of the army and leaving Liege City. In the blink of an eye, the dozens of dragon riders turned into little black figures in the sky and disappeared from everyone's sight. Lu Yen looked up for a long time. His neck was probably sore, so he sat down again and said, When will they start fighting? Bailey Yen said, Feng Jixing is currently surrounding the city. He won't make a move before he forms an encirclement. How do you think Feng Jixing will attack Liege City, Mr. Yen? Will it be a forceful attack or a desperate one? I'm afraid neither will be the case. Bailey Yen smiled bitterly. Our army only has less than 30,000 soldiers, but Feng Jixing has 100,000. Moreover, he has powerful magic crystal cannons in his hands. He doesn't need to use these two tactics. I'm afraid that before the sky turns dark, he will order the cannons to attack Liege City. Liege City is just a small county city. The city walls aren't thick and can't withstand the destructive power of the magic crystal cannons. Then what about us? Do we have a choice? Lu Yan's eyes were filled with confusion. Bailey Yen shook his head. We can either fight to the death or surrender. Surrender! Lu Yen pursed his lips and said, I want to see Feng Jixing. Bailey Yen was stunned. Lu Yen stood up. Men, prepare a horse. I want to go to the Qin army's main camp to see Feng Jixing. Absolutely not. Commander, this is like a sheep walking into a tiger's mouth. Don't try to persuade me. Lu Yen murmured, I have to go. Otherwise, Liege City will be in danger. 2 hours later, Lu Yen arrived at the Qin army's main camp with 10 riders. Without any pleasantries, Lu Yen strode across the carpet towards Feng Jixing. He nodded and said, I'm here to negotiate. Feng Jixing sat there in high spirits. He smiled and said, You are not qualified to negotiate. Not qualified? Lu Yen sneered. Feng Jixing, are you so sure that you will win? That's right. Feng Jixing nodded and said, When you had the dragon riders, you were still no match for me. Now that the dragon riders have flown away, what do you have to fight against me? Don't forget, there are still 50,000 people in Liege City. They are all the people of your Qin Empire. Are you, Feng Jixing, going to ignore these people? Feng Jixing couldn't help but burst into laughter. Lu Yen, do you really think I, Feng Jixing, am a 3-year-old child? 5 days ago, I received a secret report from Liege City. You have captured all the people in the city and used them as food for the army. Now, is there even a single one of them alive? You. Lu Yan's face turned pale. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth. His eyes were filled with fire. You are a group of animals, barbarians. You treat the people of the Qin Empire as food. If I, Feng Jixing, negotiate with you, wouldn't I be associating with beasts? Get the hell out of here. In 2 hours we will officially start the war. We will use the military method to decide the winner. Don't make me look down on you. Lu Yen, get the hell out of here. Lu Yan's body trembled. He slowly turned around, almost losing his balance. 2 of his subordinates hurriedly supported him. Otherwise, this commander of the Haiyan Shan army would have a hard time even walking. At dusk, the magicite cannons outside the city began to spit out deadly tongues of fire. Waves of magicite shockwaves pulverized the walls of Liege City. This city had long since become a dead city. The majority of the commoners had already fled, while the rest had been killed and used as rations. To the Qin Empire, this city was a humiliation that had to be erased. Thus, Feng Jixing was doing exactly that. The bombardment continued from dusk until deep into the night, and it lasted for an entire 6 hours. Under Feng Jixing's orders, almost 18,000 heavy demonic crystal cannons from the artillery battalion poured down onto the city, and the tiny city was practically razed to the ground. The Darkstone Empire's army within the city was naturally blasted into pieces, and even Liu Yan died under the bombardment. At daybreak, the Imperial army entered to collect the corpses. However, they couldn't find a single complete corpse. Instead, they found some enemy soldiers hiding in the cellars of the city. They were all shot to death. This was how war was, and Feng Jixing had been through hundreds of battles. He had long since tempered himself to the point where he was impervious to fire and water. Benevolence was simply too distant for him. The next day, a monument was erected at the ruins of Liege City to commemorate the dead people of the Qin Empire. Feng Jixing left 20,000 soldiers for Jianghu to reorganize and use to guard the southern border. 5 days later, Feng Jixing led the army back to Lanyan City. 1 month and 6 days in the Shattered Cauldron realm was equivalent to a year in the 64 domains. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others' cultivation had improved greatly. They had spent most of their time in the Cave of Gods and Demons, so they had gotten used to the temperature there. Lin Muyu had already advanced to the 79th Grotto Heaven stage, while Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had reached the 77th and 74th Grotto Heaven stage respectively. The one who had improved the most was Shi Yan. Her strength had already recovered to the 62nd God Emperor standard. Although it was still far from the 99th Grotto Heaven stage, she had already recovered at least 30% of her strength. Ordinary God Emperors wouldn't be able to do anything to her. At night, the sky of the 64 domains was as bright as a mirror. On a hill, Lin Muyu was lying on her back, allowing the starlight to seep into her body. She closed her eyes and said with a relaxed expression, "How long have we been in the prehistoric mystic realm?" "Almost 2 years, Qin Yin said. "Time really flies." In the blink of an eye, 2 years have passed. Lin Muyu opened her eyes and hugged Qin Yin. "Xiao Yin, do you miss home?" "Yes, but my family is gone." On the other side, Tang Xiaoxi said, "Don't be so sad. Let's talk about Mu's cultivation. You have been stuck in the 79th Grotto Heaven stage for 3 months. Why don't you look anxious?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "What's the use of being anxious about this? I finally understand what Grandpa Chu Chu said back then. The higher the cultivation, the more important the state of mind is. If I can't break through and prove my Tao, even if I step into the 80th Grotto Heaven, I'll only be a mediocre god, just like Wu Feng and Dong Fang Yen." As she spoke, Lin Muyu suddenly narrowed her eyes. "Someone is coming. It's Feng Zhanlin." As expected, a gust of wind condensed in the air, and Feng Zhanlin's figure appeared. He smiled awkwardly. "I'm really sorry to disturb Lin General's quiet cultivation here." Lin Muyu remained calm. "I'm not cultivating. I'm just flirting with girls here. If you have something to say it quickly." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi blushed, but they couldn't do anything to this guy. Feng Zhanlin said, "All right then. Reporting to Lin General, a few hours ago, the sacred relic was ambushed. The celestial dragon was injured, and 2 of our divine kings were also seriously injured. The treasure in the sacred relic, Star Chess, was stolen." Lin Muyu suddenly jumped up from the grass. "Who is so daring to behave atrociously in our territory? They are all masked, but judging from their aura, they should be from the Starfall domain. Even Zheng Xian is here. The Starfall domain finally came to us." Lin Muyu shook her arm, and rays of light bloomed. "I haven't fought for a long time, and my hands are itching. Domain Lord Feng, go back and prepare. We will return to Dragon City in 3 days. We will discuss this first." Yes. Chapter 1034. When Lin Muyu and the others returned to Dragon City, it was noon. The city was filled with smoke, and the atmosphere was peaceful. Outside the Dragon City Grand Hall, a group of servants and soldiers were waiting solemnly. Before they even walked up the stairs, Mochi Lin had already brought Mochi Lei and the others to greet them. His face was filled with indignation as he said, "How preposterous! They've gone too far." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked with a frown. Mochi Lin said, "The Starfall domain sent a letter." "Take a look, Lin General." "But what letter?" "It's an invitation." Lin Muyu took the letter and opened it. It was addressed to him, the leader of the Dragon League. There were only a few lines of concise words. The 64 domains were established by the ancient civilization. The domains should have lived in peace with each other. The 11 domains in the south have now become 8. The Starfall domain has obtained 2 treasures, the Star Chess and the 100-sectional staff. Therefore, they invite the experts of the domains to hold a treasure-seizing assembly in the Starfall domain on the 1st of next month. The treasures will belong to those who can obtain them. We hope that young hero Lin of the Dragon League will lead the experts of the Dragon League to attend the assembly. Zheng Xian thanks you. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were confused. Lin Muyu handed the letter to them. Mochi Lin said angrily, "What treasure-seizing assembly? The star cluster chess was clearly stolen from the Saint Relic. This is simply despicable and shameless, holding a treasure-seizing assembly with the star cluster chess from the Saint Relic. The Falling Star domain is really a bunch of shameless people." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "This is not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is Zheng Xian and Dongfang Yan's real intention in holding the treasure-seizing assembly. Do they want to take the opportunity to get rid of the top experts of the southern domains?" "I don't think so." Feng Zhanlin said, "With the skills of Marshal Lin and Darren Shiyen, I'm afraid that Dongfang Yan and Zheng Xian are not their match. What's more, Zheng Xian was already defeated by Marshal Lin at the Dragon Union's grand ceremony. Unless they have another backing, but we don't know what this backing is," Lin Muyu asked. "Have Dongfang Yan and Zheng Xian made any moves in the past year?" Mochi Lin cupped his fists and said, "Zheng Xian is in charge of the affairs of the Falling Star region, and he appears in public every month. Rumor has it that he is diligently practicing and improving the butterfly knife art. As for Dongfang Yan, there hasn't been any news about him in the past year. It's as if he disappeared from the world, and no one knows what happened. It seems that the problem lies with Dongfang Yan." Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. "When is the 1st of next month?" 5 days later. Let's get ready. We have to go, or else Dragon City won't be able to survive in the south of the 64 regions. Yes. Feng Zhanlin said, "Lin General, how many people are suitable for us to bring?" "Only 10 Emperor Gods will be enough. The rest will stay and guard Dragon City." "Yes." Lin Muyu walked into the hall and asked, "Are the participants only from the 8 southern regions?" "Yes, the Falling Star region only invited the 8 southern regions." Mochi Lin said, "Besides the Falling Star region and our Dragon League, there are also the Skyway region, the Earth Carrier region, the Fire Qilin region, the Wind End region, the Silver River region, and the Thunderise region. Among them, our Dragon League is the strongest, followed by the Falling Star region, the Skyway region, and the Earth Carrier region. The other 4 regions are weaker, and I'm afraid they won't be able to fight for the Star Chess and the 100-segment staff." "What kind of treasures are the Star Chess and the 100-segment staff?" "I forgot to ask Senior Luo Tianji at the Sacred Relic." Feng Zhanlin smiled. "The Star Chess, as the name suggests, is actually a chessboard that hides the mysteries of heaven. The black and white chess pieces can fly and injure people, and the Star Chess is a unique hidden weapon in the world. The 100-segment staff is a long staff similar to an iron rod, and it can be extended and retracted at will. It has 100 segments, and it's very difficult to defend against it." "Are they all divine artifacts?" "According to the classification of the 64 regions, they should be second-grade divine artifacts, slightly lower than the Xianyuan sword and Nuwa zither, but 2 grades higher than the Star's sword. The star's sword was a substandard divine artifact. It seemed that there was a third-grade divine artifact among the 64 regions. Lin Muyu had a bad premonition and said, "This trip to the Falling Star region is no small matter. We must select our strongest emperor gods. Besides, no matter what the Falling Star region's intentions are, the star chess is a treasure of the sacred relic, and I must take it back." "Yes, I understand. We won't go out for the next few days. Cultivate well, and we will set off the day after tomorrow. We will arrive at the Falling Star region in 5 days. Lin General, can we walk there? Yes, don't fly. It's too conspicuous. Be careful. Yes. At night, in the Imperial Garden of Dragon City, it was very quiet in the autumn. The cool night breeze blew, bringing with it a faint fragrance of the wilderness, which made people feel relaxed and happy. In the small courtyard, Lin Muyu sat cross-legged on a flat rock, leaning against a short pine tree behind him. The invisible elephant divine power was circulating around his body slowly. He looked peaceful, as though he was asleep. Lin Muyu had been maintaining this state of cultivation for the past few days. He did not deliberately circulate his power, he just let the power in his body circulate on its own. Meditation was a state of mind cultivation. Lin Muyu had the sovereign personality, but what he lacked was not power, but a kind of improvement in his state of mind. He had not reached the state yet, so he could only improve by thinking and seeking. Letting nature take its course, his aura seemed to merge with everything around him. Under the moonlight, 3 beauties sat facing each other, drinking tea by the tea table in the small courtyard. "Xiao Yin, what level have you cultivated the Nuwa zither music score that Senior Luo Tianji gave you?" Tang Xiaoxi suddenly asked. "The 3rd level." Qin Yin smiled awkwardly. "The power contained in the music score is too profound, and I can't understand it in a short time. I only cultivated to the 3rd level in a year. Do you want to try it for us? I haven't heard Xiao Yin play for a long time." "That's not a good idea, right?" Qin Yin glanced at Lin Muyu, who was on the rockery not far away, and said, "Brother Yu is meditating. If I play the Nuwa zither, I'm afraid I'll disturb him." Shi Yen smiled lazily. "Don't worry, he won't be disturbed. Yu has already entered a state of meditation, and nothing in the outside world can disturb him unless there's a crisis. It just so happens that I want to see the power of the Nuwa zither music score. Come on, Xin, let me and Xiaoxi see it." "Okay then." Qin Yin stood up and gently brushed her palm in front of her, and a dazzling jade zither appeared in front of her. It was the Nuwa zither. Qin Yin floated in the air, and the Nuwa zither floated in front of her. Her 5 jade-like fingers gently plucked the strings of the zither, and immediately, an elegant sound flowed out like flowing water. "Nice." The corners of Tang Xiaoxi's mouth rose slightly, and a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Shi Yen also smiled. "It's not as simple as just nice." That's right, if one looked carefully, they would find that there were invisible gusts of wind flowing around Qin Yin's body, like a thick wall of wind to protect her, and at the same time, they could turn into wind blades to attack the intruders at any time. The first layer of the Nuwa zither music score, Wind Rising. The sound of the zither was gentle and light, and in the blink of an eye, it had reached the 2nd layer. The sound of the zither began to become rapid, like a downpour of rain, and the aura of the space also began to distort and ripple slightly. Invisible sound waves shuttled back and forth in the space, and every note contained extremely strong destructive power. However, as long as Qin Yin slightly changed the tone, these notes would seep into the surrounding flowers and plants, nourishing everything, just like the great kindness of the Nuwa zither music score. The 2nd layer of Nuwa zither music score, Spiritual Movement. Before the 3rd layer of music was played, Qin Yin's palms pressed down and stopped playing. She smiled and said, "Okay, that's it. The power of the 3rd layer of music is too strong. It's better not to play it." "The 3rd layer of music is the soul splitting, right?" Shi Yen asked with a smile. "Okay." Shi Yen said, "I've read the music score. The power of the soul splitting can directly attack the opponent's soul with sound waves, which can cause a fatal blow. Such a move, it's right not to use it easily. Xin, do you want to use it in the treasure-seizing conference of the Falling Star Field in 5 days? Qin Yin chuckled and said, It's okay. Well, it's a good opportunity to see how many masters there are in the other 7 fields. Shi Yan's eyes lit up and she said, If the Dragon League wants to dominate the south, the other 7 fields will be our stumbling blocks. We must make them surrender. Yes, I just don't know what Brother Yu is thinking. Qin Yin looked up into the distance and found Lin Muyu leaning against a tree, looking peaceful and comfortable. She was motionless, as if she had fallen into a deep sleep. Suddenly, Qin Yin felt a touch of warmth in her heart. Lin Muyu was born to be a cultivation genius. It was rare for her to enjoy the process of cultivation. Time passed quickly, and 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu and the others set off on foot and left Dragon City. They passed through countless mountains on the way and arrived at the Falling Star Field after 3 days. They didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. The people of the Falling Star Field seemed to be preparing for the treasure-seizing conference, as if they were celebrating a festival. In the evening, Lin Muyu and the others entered the castle of the Falling Star Field and were greeted with a very grand welcome. Zheng Xian personally led several God Emperor realm experts out of the castle to welcome them. In the evening, they held a banquet to entertain the masters of the 7 fields. The castle of the Falling Star Field was built on a mountain, which was very steep. The people of the Dragon League were arranged to rest in a row of buildings halfway up the mountain. In the wild, the stars were shining brightly. Lin Muyu couldn't sleep, so she strolled along the wooden corridor hanging on the mountain wall. Looking down, there was a huge square about a kilometer away, and above it was a high platform, like an altar. Rustle. Footsteps came from behind. It was a familiar aura. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiao Yin, you can't sleep either? Well, yes. Qin Yin was wearing a light red tight dress, like a girl next door. She smiled and said, It's not that I can't sleep, but I was woken up by your footsteps. I'm already very light, sorry. Don't be so polite. What are you looking at? Here, Lin Muyu pointed to the altar in the distance. Qin Yin squinted her flaming eyes and looked into the distance. She smiled and said, That's the longevity altar, right? The place where the ceremony is held in the Falling Star Field. Tomorrow, we will also fight for the star chess and the 100-segment staff there. I just don't know what the people of the Falling Star Field are planning. Yes, the truth will be revealed tomorrow. Chapter 1035. Lin Muyu slowly let out a sigh of relief. Her breathing was long, and her spiritual energy seemed to have merged with the surrounding mountains and rivers. She could feel the pulse of spiritual energy between heaven and earth. Although the Falling Star domain was not the strongest among the 64 domains, the scenery in the Falling Star domain was probably the most spectacular and magnificent. At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a strange fluctuation of energy from the spiritual pulse technique. She smiled and said, Which expert is it? Since you're already here, why not show yourself? Qin Yin was startled. She was a step slower than Lin Muyu. In the sky, a star-like person slowly descended. It was a handsome young man in white holding a sword. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he had the bearing of a dragon or phoenix. This person slowly descended and cupped his hands with a smile. I've let the 2 of you see something embarrassing. This one is Murong Tianxing from the Skyline domain. I didn't mean to eavesdrop on your conversation, but I was absorbing the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. So it's the domain lord of the Skyline domain. My apologies. Lin Muyu smiled. I don't need to introduce myself, right? Murong Tianxing couldn't help but laugh. The famous leader of the Dragon League, Lin Muyu. There's no need to introduce yourself. This one, Murong Tianxing, has already seen Alliance leaders' heroic bearing in the Dragon League. I didn't think that today would be such a coincidence that the Dragon League's encampment was arranged here. As he spoke, Murong Tianxing bowed to Qin Yin. This one greets Miss Qin Yin. Qin Yin faintly smiled. Domain Lord Murong doesn't need to be so polite. I'm very ashamed. Murong Tianxing said, since Alliance leader Lin is here, I'm afraid that the Dragon League is determined to obtain the 2 treasures of the treasure-seizing assembly, right? I don't dare to say that. Lin Muyu said, there are many hidden dragons and crouching tigers in the 8 southern regions. We, the Dragon Alliance, should weigh our options carefully. Moreover, since the Fallen Star regions set up this trap, they must be very confident. Who would be stupid enough to hand over the star chess and the 100-segment staff to someone else? Therefore, I personally feel that it won't be that easy. Region Lord Murong, isn't your Skyline region also? Murong Tianxing could not help but let out a carefree laugh. Alliance Master Lin, we are straightforward people, let's not beat around the bush. The Star Luo chess is a treasure that has been lost for many years, and the 100-segment staff is also a divine weapon. Who wouldn't want it? As long as we have these 2 divine artifacts as the treasures of our regions, I'm afraid we'll be able to attract many talented people. It'll be of great benefit to any region. What do you think, Alliance Leader Lin? Yeah, treasures are always good stuff. Lin Muyu held onto the wooden railing and lowered her head to look at the longevity altar. She said, it's just that I don't know how many people will be injured or even lose their lives because of these 2 treasures. Region Lord Murong, please take care of yourself. Murong Tianxing was startled, then he smiled and said, yes, I'll remember. Thank you for your warning, Alliance Master Lin. Tomorrow, let's take one step at a time. If we can fight for the treasures, then we'll fight for them. If we can't, then we'll just give up. Yeah, Murong Tianxing looked deeply at Qin Yin and said, then, take your time, I won't disturb you anymore. Go ahead. In the blink of an eye, Murong Tianxing turned into a ray of light and flew towards the heavenly cauldron. He needed to absorb more light from the sun and moon to cultivate his strength. He was the youngest region lord in the 64 regions, and also the youngest god-emperor expert who was close to the perfection realm. He was indeed extraordinary. The next day, before the sky had even brightened, the sound of gongs and drums could be heard. There were even servants in the corridor shouting at the top of their lungs, it's time for breakfast. It's time for breakfast. Lin Muyu rubbed his eyes and sat up from the bed. Suddenly, a bloody scene flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but be startled. It was his premonition ability. Nothing good would happen today. After washing up, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Xian also arrived. Soon after, Feng Zhan Lin, Mochi Lin, Fu Zhu, and the others also arrived. 2 servants raised the Dragon League's flag and led everyone to the dining area. Breakfast was very simple. Some food similar to sweet potatoes, steamed buns, and mushroom soup. It was delicious, healthy, and non-toxic. After breakfast, everyone was led to the longevity altar by the meteor falling domain's servants. This place was going to be charred today. The longevity altar was a towering octagonal altar. Moreover, it was not made of stone, but rather a transparent and resplendent altar. The people of the Dragon League were arranged to the southern side of the longevity altar, closer to the host's house. This was probably to show the status of the Dragon League in the 8 southern regions. Feng Zhan Lin said in a low voice, do you see, Lin General? The high platform of the longevity altar is made of divine essences. These divine essences are very rare and precious, and they are indestructible. Apart from first-rate divine artifacts, nothing else can break them. A divine essence the size of a shield is priceless, but the meteor falling domain actually used divine essences to build a high platform. It's too extravagant. After so many years, no one has come to steal the divine essences? There have been, but the meteor falling domain and the raging fire domain are on good terms. With these 2 domains united, who in the 11 southern regions would dare to steal the divine essences? As for the heaven-devouring domain and the others in the central region, they don't care for the divine essences. They would never ruin the prestige and reputation they have established in the 64 regions for a mere divine essences. Lin Muyu nodded and didn't continue to ask questions. She just accompanied Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, chatting from time to time. When the experts of the 7 regions had taken their seats, the meteor falling domain's domain lord, Zheng Xian, strapped his lancet to his waist and stood up with a smile. He cupped his fists and said, "First of all, thank you all for coming to the meteor falling domain. This treasure-seizing assembly is not only for exchanging pointers, but also for harmonizing the relationship between the 8 southern regions. The 64 regions have been in constant war, and this state of affairs should indeed change." As he said this, Zheng Xian shouted, "Guards, please bring out the treasures." A few servants and guards came out with treasures. There was a small and exquisite chessboard and a scepter shaped like a withered pine tree. It glowed faintly and was very beautiful. Zheng Xian's face was full of pride. The 100 sectional staff was originally a treasure of my starfall domain, and the star-scattered chess is a treasure that I obtained recently. This time, I'll take out these 2 treasures and share the prosperity with the other 7 domains in the south and reward them together. Guards, read the rules of the treasure-seizing assembly. Yes. A divine king realm expert walked forward with a scroll in his hand and said loudly, "The first rule of the treasure-seizing assembly, all challengers must sign a life and death contract. Weapons have no eyes, and if they die, it has nothing to do with others. The second rule, all challengers must use their own treasures as collateral. If they fail, the treasures will belong to the winner. The third rule, the battle will end before sunset, and the winner will get all the treasures, including the star-scattered chess and the scepter." The crowd was in an uproar. Everyone knew that they were here for the treasures, but they did not expect that they would have to give up their treasures. Suddenly, a man with chest hair said, "This is a big joke. Why do we need to give up our treasures for the treasure-seizing assembly? What kind of **T rule did you set in the meteor falling domain?" The Divine King Realm expert immediately explained with a smile, "Sir, you may not know this, but this rule is to prevent people from fighting one after another. If that happens, the winner on the stage will be exhausted to death. Only by giving up their best treasures can they be qualified to challenge. Moreover, the treasures will be more abundant, and it will stimulate the desire to seize the treasures." The burly man was rendered speechless by his words. Zheng Xian smiled faintly and said, "Shui Fei, you go first." "Yes." A hierarch realm expert landed on the stage and cupped his fists at the experts from the 7 regions. "I'm Shui Fei, I will go first. Anyone can challenge me." The crowd was silent. Lin Muyu frowned. She had already cursed all 18 generations of Zheng Xian's ancestors in her heart. This shameless bastard actually sent a hierarch realm expert to his death. He was really trying to catch a whale with an earthworm. The competition would end at night. Whoever went up now would lose. No one was stupid. The experts from the 7 major domains were all silent. They looked at each other, but no one stepped onto the stage. Cough, cough. An expert from the earth-bearing domain said, "Domain Lord Murong, you are the strongest rising star in recent years. You should be the one to take first place." Murong Tianxing cupped his fists and smiled politely. "I am not talented, I will watch first." Feng Zhanlin crossed his arms and smiled. "Only an idiot would go up now." Lin Muyu nodded in agreement. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, on the other hand, widened their beautiful eyes as they looked at everyone around them. It was all thanks to Qin Yin's improvement in cultivation that she was able to better control the Eyes of Blazing Dawn. If it was in the past, the domain of the Eyes of Blazing Dawn would have swept through the entire longevity altar, and this place would have exploded. Fuzhu smiled faintly. "Looks like the meteorite domain is going for wool and came home shorn. It's really interesting to play such a trick. Let's see how this idiot Zheng Xian will embarrass himself in front of the 7 regions." Lin Muyu glanced at him. "I don't think so. Who knows, there might really be an idiot who would challenge it now." "Why, master?" "For the sense of existence." Sure enough, before Lin Muyu's voice faded, a burly man flew up the stage with a spear in his hand. He cupped his fists and said, "I am Qiu Lang from the Wind's End Domain. I offer my star-piercing spear as a pledge. Please enlighten me." "Wait a moment." Zheng Xian gestured with his eyes, and a guard walked forward with a tray. There was a life and death contract on it. Qiu Lang did not even look at it and pressed his fingerprint on it. He grinned and said, "Can we start now?" Xue Fei nodded. Qiu Lang roared. His spear turned into streaks of light and pierced forward. He was a god king, so it was normal for him to look down on Xue Fei. In less than 10 moves, Xue Fei could no longer hold on. Swish! Qiu Lang's spear went straight for Xue Fei's chest. "Have mercy!" Zheng Xian hurriedly shouted. But it was too late. The spear pierced through Xue Fei's heart. Qiu Lang turned his wrist and pulled out the spear, but Xue Fei had already fallen off the stage, dead. The domain lords of the 7 major territories fell silent once more. This was not a good start. Not far away, Zheng Xian's expression was very ugly. Qiu Lang was not giving him any face. Chapter 1036. Raising the star-piercing spear high up, Qiu Lang said proudly, "Who wants to challenge me?" Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi all frowned in silence. There had always been people who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and Qiu Lang, who had cultivated to the God King realm, was actually so arrogant. He didn't even put the hundreds of God Kings present in his eyes. This kind of person was even more frighteningly ignorant. Under Qiu Lang's provocation, the hundreds of people present actually didn't accept the challenge. Almost everyone just remained silent or chatted with each other. The treasure hunt ended too late, and it would only end at sunset. Anyone who went up now would only be courting death. The situation was in a deadlock until noon. After everyone finished their lunch, the treasure hunt continued. When the time was about to end, there was less than 2 hours left before sunset. Finally, someone accepted the challenge. It was a young cultivator with dual swords in his hands. He was from the Earth Carrier region. Swoosh! The young man walked on the wind and stood proudly on the high platform. His dual swords were naturally lowered as he said with a smile, "I am Wang Xiang of the Earth Carrier region. I hope Lord Qiu Lang can give me some pointers." Qiu Lang sat on the ground with the star-piercing spear across his legs. He was almost asleep, but Wang Xiang's appearance made him energetic. He immediately stood up and said with a smile, "Great, someone finally came to challenge me. Kid, don't talk so much. What are you going to use as a bargaining chip?" Wang Xiang raised his long sword lightly. "This pair of glazed dual sword has been with me for many years. It is a substandard divine artifact. It should be enough as a bargaining chip, right? Alright, I will take this pair of dual swords." Qiu Lang jumped up, and his figure blended into the flames. The long spear instantly pierced forward like a falling meteor towards Wang Xiang's chest. It had the momentum to pierce through his heart. However, Wang Xiang was no longer the Su Fei from before. He raised his dual glazed swords to parry. Ding! The 2 domain cyclones collided, and the air was filled with the sound of explosions. Qiu Lang quickly made his move, and for a moment, the sky was filled with layers of spear afterimages, filled with raging flames. Meanwhile, Wang Xiang's dual glazed sword swept through the flames. Qiu Lang's law of fire was fierce and overbearing, while Wang Xiang's law of wind was light and flexible. After exchanging nearly 20 moves, Wang Xiang suddenly shouted and crossed his 2 swords. With a dang sound, Qiu Lang's star-piercing spear was sent flying. Under Qiu Lang's horrified gaze, Wang Xiang swung his 2 swords continuously, leaving bloody gashes on Qiu Lang's chest. At least 20 slashes were launched in an instant, but none of them were fatal. Instead, Qiu Lang was so frightened that his face turned pale, and he knelt on the ground weakly. Why didn't you kill me?" Qiu Lang asked. "I'm not you, why would I want to kill you?" Wang Xiang abruptly kicked Qiu Lang off the stage. Cheers immediately rang out from below the stage. Wang Xiang is indeed worthy of being the Earth-bearing region's imperial wind dragon. Zheng Xian clapped his hands and laughed. This battle, Wang Xiang wins, Qiu Lang loses. Wang Xiang politely bowed with his 2 swords hanging upside down on the stage, then looked indifferently at the audience, waiting for the next challenger. What a good dual sword style. Lin Muyu praised softly. To be able to maintain his composure after dozens of moves, this Wang Xiang sword style is indeed not simple. It's a pity that his cultivation is too low. If he had advanced to the God Emperor realm, he would definitely be a promising talent. Qin Yin smiled faintly, but didn't say anything. It was a good thing that Lin Muyu cherished talent. Otherwise, if she was jealous of talent, she wouldn't be able to achieve anything in the 64 regions, although most of the God realm experts here were like that. Tang Xiaoxi said, "Isn't Xiao Yin going to challenge? When will she go if not now?" "There's no rush, let's wait a little longer." Qin Yin pursed her red lips. "I want to see how many more experts have yet to fight." Yes. Before he had even finished speaking, a white-haired young man leapt onto the stage with a battle hammer in his hand. He propped the hammer against a divine crystal and said, "I am Lei Yuming, the leader of the Purple Thunder Hall of the Thunderized Zone. I am here to challenge you with a third-tier god artifact, the Purple Thunder Hammer." The Purple Thunder Hammer was a third-grade divine weapon. This Lei Yuming was also a God Emperor realm expert, and the power of 68 waves could be faintly seen between his breaths. Wang Xiang frowned. "Lei Yuming? What can I—" Lei Yuming smiled faintly and pressed the seal of life and death on the guard's tray. "Wang Xiang, let's have a showdown at the treasure-seizing assembly today." "Very well, I couldn't ask for more." Wang Xiang raised his eyebrows. Even though he was facing an opponent with a higher cultivation level, he still revealed an eagerness to fight. This was a rare sight. Below the stage, Feng Zhanlin whispered, "I'm afraid this battle won't end so easily." "Why do you say so?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Zhanlin said, "Lin General, you may not know this, but the Earth-bearing region and Thunderized region are adjacent to each other, and the two regions are constantly at war. Just a few days ago, there was a bloody battle in which 3 God Realm experts died, and one of them was Lei Yuming's brother, Lei Yusong. Moreover, the one who killed Lei Yusong is this Wang Xiang, so the two are mortal enemies. Lei Yuming will definitely kill him." "Oh, I see." Lin Muyu was relieved. "I just hope Wang Xiang doesn't die on the stage. After all, the disparity in strength was too great. Wang Xiang was only a god king with 58 grotto heavens, but his opponent was a god emperor with a third-grade divine weapon. Be it in terms of strength or weapon, Wang Xiang didn't have the upper hand." As they spoke, the sparks and lightning clashed on the stage. Lei Yuming's battle technique was vigorous and powerful. He waved his warhammer like a fortress, and lightning wreaked havoc, forming a sharp force field. Wang Xiang could only swing his sword and use the law of wind to try to cut into Lei Yuming's force field, but he couldn't do anything. In the blink of an eye, Wang Xiang's god wall started to crumble. "It's over, Wang Xiang is going to lose." Tang Xiaoxi curled her lips. Lin Muyu's god power was already surging in her body, and she looked like she was about to make a move. "Mu, you want to make a move?" Tang Xiaoxi asked in shock. "No, I want to save him." Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. "It's enough to decide the victor, there's no need to decide life and death. I'm going to save Wang Xiang." On the stage, lightning surged. After close to 30 rounds of fighting, Lei Yuming roared, and used his absolute strength to completely destroy Wang Xiang's god wall. The Purple Thunder Hammer swept across, and before it could even reach Wang Xiang's glass dual sword, Wang Xiang's eyes were wide open, and he could only watch as the Purple Thunder Hammer destroyed his body. "Don't kill him." On the Earth Carrier region spectator stand, the region lord had already stood up, but he didn't really go forward to stop it. Instead, a figure appeared between Wang Xiang and Lei Yuming, with shocking speed. A smear of golden light shone. It was the Xianyuan sword, and it went straight for the Purple Thunder Hammer. Pang! The air current surged, accompanied by golden radiance and raging flames. Lin Muyu's power was extremely strong. Although she was only defending, she was still able to send Lei Yuming, who was also a celestial the arch, flying more than 10 meters away. For a moment, Wang Xiang was stunned. "Lin? Alliance Lord Lin?" Lei Yuming almost wanted to avenge his brother. He couldn't help but roar, "Lin Muyu, what is the meaning of this? Don't you know that bystanders shouldn't participate in a fight? This is a one-on-one duel, not a gang fight." Lin Muyu's face was apologetic. She smiled. "I know I shouldn't interfere in your duel, But obviously Wang Xiang has lost, you don't need to take his life, right? Saying that, Lin Mu turned around. Wang Xiang, admit defeat, at least you can live. Wang Xiang was still in shock. He reluctantly handed over the glass dual sword. Lei Yuming, Wang Xiang, admit defeat. Saying that, he said in a low voice, Alliance Lord Lin, thank you. Wang Xiang, will forever remember your life-saving grace. No need to be polite, go back. Wang Xiang floated away, and when Lin Muyu was about to leave, Lei Yuming roared, Lin Muyu, stop right there. What's wrong? Lin Muyu floated in the air, looking at her opponent. Her Qiyu armor reflected a majestic and beautiful luster under the sunlight, and the Shenyuan sword in her hand surged with an invincible momentum. Lei Yuming was taken aback by Lin Muyu's aura. How could a mere junior have such an outstanding aura? Lei Yuming couldn't understand it, but since he had called out to Lin Muyu, he needed an explanation. Lei Yuming braced himself and said, This is a grudge between our Thunderrise region and Earthbearing region. Who do you think the Dragon Alliance is? Do you think you can uphold justice with numbers? Don't make me laugh my head off. Since you, Lin Muyu, are here as the leader of the Dragon League, then don't leave, at least not before you defeat me. But I don't want to fight you, Lin Muyu said lightly. Why? You're too weak. You. Lei Yuming was so angry that his knuckles cracked. Your Dragon League dares to cause trouble, yet you don't dare to take responsibility? Come, win against my purple thunder hammer first. Then, Lin Muyu gripped the Shenyuan sword. She didn't want to fight so early, but now she was a little shaken. This Lei Yuming really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, and needed to be taught a lesson. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up. You, let me do it. Xiao Yin wants to fight? Let's fight. Lin Muyu said cheerfully, then I'll let you have this stupid cow. Just defeat it but don't kill it. Qin Yin leapt onto the stage, but her feet didn't touch the ground. She took out a sharp sword and said, Stellar Sword, a substandard god artifact. I'll use it as a bargaining chip. Lei Yuming couldn't help but be stunned. The beauty in front of him looked familiar. He seemed to have seen her at the Dragon Alliance's founding ceremony. However, he didn't know that she was also a godly state expert. He thought that she was just Lin Muyu's woman. After Qin Yin made a hand seal, she put away the stellar sword and put her hands together in front of her chest, then separated. Suddenly, a bright light began to gather, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a radiant zither. It was the zither of Nuwa. Quietly standing in the air, Qin Yin smiled, Please enlighten me. Don't think I won't hit you just because you're a woman. Lei Yuming shouted, Lin Muyu is meddling in other people's business. His woman deserves to be hit. Do you have what it takes? Qin Yin's lips curled into a beautiful dimple. If I don't, I'll just get beaten up. Oomph. Lei Yuming raised his warhammer and swept out with a buzzing sound, giving off an aura that could shake mountains and seas. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.